Ooh, move that.
Yeah.
They must be having their meeting before their meeting.
Pre-meetings anyway. David Dean. Yeah. Is it 6:45?
5:45.
5:45. Okay, I go for it.
Open the meeting, you mean?
We do have to do the pledge.
Good evening.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening. And welcome to the Public Safety Committee meeting. I hereby call the Public Safety Committee meeting to order. And I'll take the roll call first. Committee members, Councilmember McKee, present. Councilmember Struber,
Present.
Councilmember Favreau,
Present.
Councilmember Di Lorenzo,
Present.
Councilmember Spain McLaren,
Present.
Councilmember Campbell Cohen,
Present.
Council President Steele.
Present.
Okay. Should I call him? Let me do this.
Totally up to you.
This is a working session of the Public Safety Committee. The agenda is limited to 2 items: a review of the Flock Network audit logs and the results of the 60-day test period. Both reports were released to the public yesterday. Participation is limited to committee members and the invited police department personnel. Members of the public are welcome to observe. Chief DeWolf and Deputy Chief Barker, Assistant Chief Mason, and Captain Dean, please come in and take a seat.
Need another chair.
There is one over there.
I'm going to get right into it, Chief, when you're ready. And I've sent you these questions, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. And in terms of the data deletion policy, the ALPR data, it's my understanding that the retained data is, the data is retained for 30 days and then deleted. The audit logs show several searches conducted more than 30 days after the incident or report date. Please explain the department's current deletion policy and how those searches were possible.
Sure. So the data is deleted after 30 days. We've had occasions where we were looking for something and it was past the 30 days and you can't look it up. It's not there to look back to 30 days. So what you're seeing is an existing case and then searching again for, you know what I mean? So like say, suppose we had this homicide in February and we're still looking for the guy. And in May, we get a clue that, hey, he was in this vehicle or whatever. We run that under that case number, but it's only for that time that it doesn't go back. You know what I mean? It goes forward, not forward, but I mean, it doesn't go back to the original case date, but you're able to continue to run a plate or run a vehicle if you get a clue on your investigation.
So I have a couple of searches. I think they were shots fired, and the search on 6/22 went back 90 days to March 16th.
So
they went
so
into
the incident or the first time that we went into the system maybe was 90 days ago, but we're not going to see 90 days of data.
But
We
you
can only see
you can
30
go
days.
back to the 316 data.
No,
No,
we can't.
okay. So what does the 316 represent?
It must have been either the date of the incident or the date of the report
No,
or
it wasn't.
the-
It's not what I had.
you know.
Let's say we have an incident in February. In May, like the chief said, we develop some information that we want to look at whatever that vehicle may be. We can put any search parameters on it. You can type in, you want to look from January 1st until this May date. You're only going to see from 30 days prior to your search date. So if we search on May 15th, you're only going to see April 15th and forward. Just like any other search parameter, there's a date box that you can type in any dates you wish. The only data that we have access to and that exists is 30 days prior from the time that person is sitting at that computer or
Right.
mobile device to search that data,
Okay.
no matter what they type in as the filters.
Okay. And how does the data get deleted?
Just automatically
You-
deleted.
You do it from your,
No,
it's at the Flock servers.
it's just removed from the system.
So they delete the data from their servers.
Correct. And they do because we've tried like with a very important case, like, hey, this data's got to be somewhere. You know what I mean? Like, can we subpoena it? Can we do? It's not there. It's gone
Okay.
after 30 days.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So my understanding is that you have 137 sharing agreements with New York State agencies. But during the test period, May 23rd to July 23rd, there were a number of searches listed more than 200 networks.
Yeah, I'm going to try to
Can you
explain.
explain that?
Yeah, I'll try to explain that and then I might lean on Captain Dean. He's next to me here. So there is only 137 organizations, agencies, whatever that we have sharing agreements with. Within those 137, some of those have multiple networks. So like Home Depot, for instance, has 100 different networks, but they're only one organization. So it's still, there's never more than 137 different things that are people or organizations that we're sharing with. But within those organizations, they have some of them have multiple networks.
Well, I noticed that Home Depot has 100, 101,
Yeah.
and Lowe's 99. So does that mean you have access to all those 99 Lowe's stores? The ALPR system?
At any given time, that fluctuates because if a camera's down or if a network is down, but essentially, yeah, if we were to search for that. Now, if we want to search Waterville, Cohoes and Troy because we know that's the only parameter that we put in. But the ability is there to search that.
It is, okay.
Yeah.
Are they all within New York State, these
Yes.
Home Depots? Okay. Why would you need to search Home Depot or Lowe's?
Maybe the suspect works there, you know what I mean, or a wanted person works there. I mean, there could be a number of reasons, or they were seen in that area after they committed a crime in the city, or, you know what I mean? So
Well, you know, ICE has targeted Home Depots.
I've heard that. I'm not
Yeah.
really familiar with it, but I've heard that
Okay.
because we don't have a Home Depot here. So it doesn't, we haven't had to deal with that. You know what I mean? In our jurisdiction.
Okay. And why the Baldwinsville Central School District live video?
You answer that?
I think when we're searching for criminal information, we don't know where that suspect or that potential lead is going to be. So could it have potentially been at the Baldwinsville? I guess the counter question is, why would we not? If we have access to that, why would we not be searching that data to try and develop some sort of lead for the victim or criminal complainant
How would you originally get access to that?
through a sharing agreement within Flock?
So, okay, so you have a sharing agreement with Baldwinville?
We would connect our systems internally to Flock.
Okay, so you turned off the feature, the national lookup feature on March 18th.
Correct.
The network logs for the prior 2 years show numerous outside agencies searching Troy's ALPR data. most notably the Houston, Texas Police Department, which conducted over 1.1 million searches of Troy's data. Can you explain why Houston PD had this access and what it was searching for?
Well, because we had the national lookup. So when you have the national lookup, your sharing agreement is with
So you don't
everybody
know-
else that has the national lookup,
I know there are like 6,000 agencies.
something like that. Yeah.
And so you wouldn't know when one of those agencies is searching our data?
Well, if you ran an audit log, you would know that they
That's
were
what
searching
you
it, but you won't know it at the moment they're doing it now.
Okay, well, I'm glad you turned that off.
Yeah.
Um,
Unless we have a murder suspect that flees to Houston in a car,
that was,
right?
Long drive.
so you would turn it back, you could. turn
No,
it back
no,
on
we,
today.
we're not trained. I'm just saying, you said, I'm glad we turned that off. And my reply was, yeah, unless we have a murder suspect that flees to Houston in a car, you know?
All right. Okay, on terms of outcome tracking, the department was unable to provide the council with the number of crimes solved using ALPR data. For example, we wanted, this Flock markets this tool as being a crime-solving tool, especially for violent crimes and stolen vehicles.
Mhm.
And I was surprised that you were not able to go back and give us the number of stolen vehicles or crimes, violent crimes that were solved using the ALPR data. And why is that? Why haven't you been tracking, or why aren't you able to track it?
You want to?
It's at the time, it's just not something that we actively track. It's an administratively complex thing to track, just between somebody filing a report, say for a stolen vehicle, person who takes that report.
I'm sorry, could you put the mic close to you?
Yes,
So people can hear you. Thank you.
say for a stolen report, the person who, the officer who takes that stolen report, stolen vehicle report, may not necessarily be the same person who takes the report of that vehicle recovery. So to have some sort of administrative function in place to track both the report, the recovery, and if there was some sort of ALPR used in between, just wasn't something that we had in place. And it was something that we had to put in place for this 60-day tracking. And if we were to continue to do it, it was something that we would have to continue to probably work on a little bit more to continue to track it.
So,
We'd actually,
go ahead.
we would. For that, I mean, it's not easy. It's very cumbersome, and we would probably need additional personnel, someone in a clerical job or something like that to go through all that stuff. Because it's too much of a burden on the captain, who already has a whole bunch of other duties. I mean, I wish it was automated, but
Yeah, I'm surprised it's not, but
I think it's just important to note, representing the people that I work alongside, the detectives. Flock is one tool and maybe a dozen or so other just investigative measures that they would use. And so while it may have impact, as was demonstrated in the report that was sent to you, it's not only the only material thing that may impact a case, and to what extent it does. Maybe it provides the lead, but it doesn't corroborate the lead, or maybe it provides no lead, and so that removes a specific information. And so I think to benefit from that data, which would always, I think everybody wants more data. Like if I'm DPW, I want to know how many water main breaks are solved with a shovel versus an excavator versus a backhoe, whatever it may be, because it'll better influence future decision making. I think in this case, you'd potentially have Flock, you'd have witness interviews, you'd have suspect interviews, you'd have all these different measures, and it's certainly something we'd benefit from, but it's not something that would, to the chief's point, be specifically real efficient for the detective to do with every single metric that they're being then requested to track.
right. But we need to figure out if it's worth the cost. And to do that, we need to have number of information about the crimes you're solving with it. I mean, appreciate it very much, Captain Dean, what you did for the 60 days. I know, I could tell it was a lot of work. But that should be somehow incorporated into the transparency and accountability for this.
I agree, and I love the data. If there's some way to accomplish getting a non-police entity to provide that data, then it would benefit all of us. But when we talk about cost, I think we've demonstrated in that 60-day, even from the snapshot you were providing 60 days, it's going to be very difficult for all of us to assign a cost to the product that it's providing and the victims and the complainants and the police officers that it's aiding. And so I think when we get in a cost discussion, it's important for all of us to be mindful of cost. But that's not necessarily where I think the benefit of the data would be. It would be, is this tool more effective than that tool? Or is this company more effective than that company? Because we're not attached to any one company. This is the company we have today. Maybe it's not the company that we have tomorrow or next year. But for simply just purposes of cost, I don't know that that would be.
But you feel
the most
that it's
effective measure.
beneficial to you.
I think by
But-
our submission for that, the crimes that were solved, at least even in part of this last 60 days that we've demonstrated to you, that you asked for after we had brought anecdotal evidence, but you wanted more fine-tuned evidence, which I can appreciate, and that's what was done. I think we've demonstrated that ALPRs are an asset that are important to law enforcement.
Chair, is it
I-
okay if I
yeah,
ask
sure.
a question?
Go ahead.
I just want to clarify what I heard about the, why you're unable to give, the number. You can't definitively say this case, ALP solved it, check, right? Because there are so many other tools. So yes, it was involved. That's why it's on the log, but you can't say that it was solved because of an ALPR. It was just used in
Correct.
the process of solving that crime. Okay,
Yeah. I mean, it's a piece of the pie,
right.
basically.
Okay, thank you.
But the ALPRs,
Butterfly.
that's been sold as solving stolen vehicles. And
What?
that to me makes a lot of sense. You know, you put in the ALP, you put in the license. plate
Yeah,
of the
you're
stolen
right.
Vehicle. And
In that instance, that makes it easy. That's an easy one. But
you
like
can't
suppose,
tell me how many stolen vehicles you've been able to recover using this data.
Well, we
That's
could-
what I'm
we-
trying to get at.
yeah,
This is a tool that you say is effective, but I have to say it's not significantly demonstrated in the data that we have for this reason, because you're not tracking.
it still would only be a part of it. It's not like the ALPR arrested the person with a stolen vehicle. There could have been information generated from a witness. There could, I mean, it's used, it's a part of it, but it's not the end all.
But that's important for us to know.
That's what I'm telling you.
But I need numbers.
We can only
Okay.
we can only go forward, and then we'll need support in order to do that,
All right,
you
well,
know?
come up with a proposal. But I really think if you're going to use this tool, we need to know how effective it is. You say it's effective, but we need to have data. That's my point. And now I'm going to turn it over to the other committee members who would like to.
Chair, I'm going to pivot completely. So if you have things okay. Hello, thank you for being here as always. I have updates on Flock specifically that we have not had a public safety meeting since I got that information. So this is going to be a lot more me talking than you answering questions. There's like 2 questions for you, but I wanted to update you guys and the public so that we're all on the same page with the new information since
Sure.
our last meeting. And I emailed some of these findings to you guys previously so that you had them. I did get the SOC 2 report from Flock. It was a very dense 92 pages, but made it through. I have some highlights that I just want to go over. The report and the audit in general is only for the cloud-based Flock system, not the cameras themselves, the firmware on the cameras, or the transmission of the data from the cameras to the cloud. So for those who are less technologically inclined, everything on the camera itself could be very open. There are not audits published on the security of the cameras themselves and how the data gets up to the cloud, which is where you guys can search. So that was very important finding from the report. The offboard process for anyone who no longer subscribes to the Flock system doesn't include anything about what's done with your data. So sure, it only keeps it for 30 days, soon to be 7 days, but there's nothing in writing from the audit that says, you know, you end your subscription, your data is gone. That is something I find to be very important, because once the subscription ends, they no longer have any kind of no reason to do what we want them to do. Like, we're not paying them anymore. Even if a customer decides to change the retention period of the data, it only applies moving forward. So if we decide that we want something less than 30 days, soon to be 7, everything that's already there stays there until that previous retention period is over. It's only moving forward that it gets changed. AI is not mentioned a single time in the report, which I've found to be disconcerting, considering AI is used a lot in the system. Some other items of note that were not in my email previously, but is important for anybody who does security. Flock is the only company I've ever encountered in my entire career. Like, I do this for a living. I've reviewed hundreds of SOC reports of hundreds of different vendors. Flock is the only one that requires you to enter an email address of a Flock employee to get approved to get the report. You have to already know somebody at Flock. I've never experienced that before. Similarly, they're also the only company I've ever encountered that does not allow you to download a PDF version of the report. Some companies actually require having a PDF version on file, banks specifically, or they can't use your product. Within the report, none of the pages are numbered, which might not seem like a big deal until you're trying to cite something in the report. You can't cite anything without a page number. That is incredibly sketchy. I'm sure lawyers are not super happy with that. For SOC reviews in general, backing up a little higher level, because not everybody does technology things like I do. A SOC report is based on a third-party audit. They have to get a certain third party. It's usually big accounting firms who do these audits, EY, things like that. The third party looks at documentation provided by the company against standards it's being reviewed against. So for example, a common standard is that a company ensures logical access limitations based on least privilege. So that's like saying, you know, only certain people in TPD have access to Flock. You have documentation showing only certain people have access. The third-party auditor looks at that, gives you a thumbs up. Cool, you're doing great. Usually when I'm reviewing these, most companies will have 1 or 2 exceptions where what the company says they're doing doesn't match the documentation. It happens, we're all human. There's always a note about, you know, why it doesn't match. Flock had more exceptions than I've ever seen in my career. And I don't think I'm allowed to say how many because they have an NDA required to read this, but they have more exceptions in their report than I've ever seen. So those are the high-level findings based on the cybersecurity report from Flock. I had only really had one question for TPD, and that is, what integrations do we have set up with our Flock system right now? Do you know?
Just action.
Just Axon, which is the car ones, you know, they're in the cars.
Okay. But it is an actual integration, like it's feeding data back and forth? Okay. Bidirectional or one direction?
It was at one point one directional, but I believe the companies have not sever the relationship, but temporarily pause that as presumably Axon is launching their own products of similar. But it was unidirectional from Axon into Flock. So all our reads would be in one spot.
Okay. Thank you. I don't know if you guys have questions or comments for any of that. I know it was a lot.
No.
All right. Thank you.
Chair. Circling back to the Lowe's and Home Depot, we have the ability to search their data. Do they have the ability to search our data with that agreement?
No,
Mm-mm.
Mm.
private agent, you have to be a law enforcement agency in order to search another law enforcement agency.
Okay. And when we were reviewing the audit reports, in one of the search criteria boxes, the word bike showed up. Can you explain why we were searching for a bike?
Well, it could have been part of a search. So like there was a bike rack on the vehicle, there was a bike in the back of the pickup truck,
Mhm.
there was a bike attached to the vehicle. So it could have been that.
Okay. So I'm just
Yeah,
a
because
little confused.
we don't search for bikes. So,
Right.
but it is like, just like there's a ladder rack on it. There's a dent in the side. There's a bike in the back of it. There's, I mean, so
So it's pulling not only it's pulling by license plate, but also by the features of the vehicle.
correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because sometimes you don't have a plate and you only have a witness saying, it was a white sedan with a bumper sticker and a dent in it, or, so you have something to go by. You know what I
Right.
mean? That was in this area at this time. So that you could look for that. And that's all, you would put those parameters in and that's all you would get. And you might get nothing because maybe it didn't pick that up.
I guess I'm confused because I have never seen what the photos actually look like when they're taking these pictures. I assumed it was just the license plate and maybe like the coloring around it, but it is an actual vehicle. And how much within the picture is it capturing? So if this is positioned by somebody's house, are people being photographed?
I don't believe so. It's just the vehicle and
It would be the lane of travel. Like if there's someone in that lane, it captures the entire vehicle. You see the entire vehicle. They're typically pointed at the roadways. So is it possible that something is captured in the background? Potentially, but there's no facial recognition. There's no identification of that person. It's focused on the vehicle. And that's what's activating the snapshot.
And how many times was Flock used to find the panhandler sticker bandit?
I see the summary that it was presumed it was 90. I'm not sure where you got that number from. I believe the search across all the different sites was somewhere in the low 30s. In this report, it's mentioned that it was 14 was the conclusion you made with the case number. I think when we took a look at that, it was 33, 32.
I think from the analysis that we did, I mean, it's just some assumption by looking through, we thought it was a little bit higher at 79. And what specific crime were you pursuing in that case? Like, what would the charge be?
The charge for that, if suspects are located and identified as criminal tampering.
Criminal t-
Is that a felony?
no, it's a misdemeanor.
And I don't know if this is a question for you or for the committee, because there's been so much information the last 7 days. But you had mentioned with Fox News last week that it would go down 30 to 7 days. My interpretation of that was that it was 7 days for all new clients signing up with Flock, but it was optional for existing customers. Is that correct?
My understanding.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can set it. I mean, there's agencies across the nation. Some of them retain that data for a year or more.
Mhm.
So you can set it however you want, but if you go by their default, then it'll be 7 days.
In
For
the-
new contract.
For new contracts, yeah.
Yeah.
And what is your official opinion of that news that came out last week?
I still think that 7 days is too short. There's a new kind of a new norm out there for a 21-day retention period from 30 down to 21 days. But 7 is still, it's still kind of iffy. I mean, we're not talking about, some kind of a widget or something, what I mean? These are people, these are victims, what I mean? That we need to help find justice for them, and it's like, okay, well, sorry, it's day number 8. And I know that you just told us that, hey, it just came to you that it's this car or this plate or some witness comes out of the blue, I mean, obviously there has to be an endpoint. There has to be an endpoint for the data retention, but 7 days just seems like it's really not that long, especially like you have like, say, sexual assault victims. They may not report that for 4 or 5 days, I
For
mean,
years.
or
Yeah.
or even, but I'm saying, it's such a useful tool. I know you want these numbers and we'll work on that, what I mean, in the future so you can see, but it's not just a numbers and cents thing. It's people's lives, I mean, that we're trying to affect and try and get them whole, I mean, that's what it's about for us. It's not just as I've heard some people from the gallery say, a toy. It's not a toy at all. It's an investigative tool that has helped us immensely and helped other agencies across the nation immensely.
Yeah, no, I understand. I just spent, anybody that sent me an email, you've got a kickback that I wasn't in the office this week. And I just spent the last 6 days with a homicide detective from New York City. And I've had a lot of lengthy conversations over the last 6 days about the usefulness of this tool. So I completely understand, and I'm not discrediting any of that. Have you spoken to anybody? So for those who are listening, it may be unfamiliar, but in New Hampshire, they use ALPRs, but they only hold the data for 3 minutes.
Yeah, I don't even know how it's useful.
So essentially how it's used is they already have somebody on a hot list. And so if a vehicle passes one of the ALPRs and the vehicle's already on a hot list, they're alerted, and then it's used for immediate arrest or the next step in your case. But after that, it's deleted. So I didn't know if you had ever had conversations with anybody in New Hampshire using that system.
No, I mean,
Yeah.
I read about it,
Yeah.
but I haven't talked to anybody there.
I think it's only used in New Hampshire for hot list,
Yeah.
Yeah.
not for active searches.
Yeah, because I was going to say, it doesn't really,
Which is
that's
part of-
not very helpful for an investigation,
Mhm.
really. I mean, only a tiny bit,
Well, they're still solving crimes in New Hampshire.
I don't think you can compare.
Excuse me, Mayor, please, this is, no,
Fair.
this is
I'm the
a,
mayor. Stop.
this is
Stop.
a.
You cannot. Okay, everyone, please, let's have some respect for the chair of the committee who is attempting to have some
Donna,
decorum
you
here.
haven't-
I think we've
done.
concluded the questions.
No, I have a couple more.
Okay.
I just want to understand, the dashboard, the Axon dashboard cameras. How are they collecting? Are they just continually collecting data? Are the cars when they're going through town?
Yes, that's exactly right.
Because there are a lot of scans. I think it was 20 some million.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. And, where is that stored? So is that get integrated into Flock's servers or?
No, Axon, it's stored with
Active.
Axon.
Okay, and how long is that kept?
That is also 30 days.
Okay. And it gets deleted. So do we have a contract with Axon?
Yes,
We do, okay.
Quite a
So I could look at that. Okay.
big contract.
Oh. I know, I have a couple of cases that I'm sure you don't want me to talk about. These are ongoing cases, but I was curious. And these are in the 30 tracked cases that you gave us. Why the initial search of the ALPR system wasn't done in some of these cases for 29 days after the crime took place. And one of them is is a very serious crime that is still on your,
We don't have all the information to search at the incident date. Sometimes it takes a detective to start to build leads. And then once they have that information, then they can search for it on that day.
so if you have a crime, a very serious crime that takes place, for instance, a murder, you wouldn't try to, on a specific day, around a specific time of day, you wouldn't try to capture the cars in that area or coming into the city or out of the city during that time, during a certain time period?
No, for the exact
wouldn't
purposes we say, we don't just cast a wide net. If we just have a homicide, we don't just freeze all the cars in the city and say, all right, well, it's probably one of these. We'll just hope to have that data future
No,
on.
but
We
in
wait
the-
till we build the information
For the-
and then search against that information.
Okay, but not, you can't just isolate it into a specific area.
There is times with the mobile LPRs that if we have a homicide on a certain block and for some reason we think that maybe the suspects arrived in a vehicle, left it there, wasn't used in the homicide, that will have a mobile LPR maybe spin that block. But no, we wouldn't freeze data for the entire city or the north end because of a violent crime.
So you have to have a lead before you would search any cars and,
We would have to know what we're searching for
okay.
or have some idea. To the chief's point, if we know it's a white sedan, then we would start those searches. But if we get to a scene and don't have that information yet, then we have nothing to search for.
Mhm. Okay. Okay, and I just, one more. I just wanted to make a observation.
What a
because
good job we're doing. Is that?
I do,
Yeah,
I think you are doing a good job.
absolutely.
That, we don't dispute that. And I would also say we are trying to give you this tool to use. We just need to put some parameters on it, and I hope you can understand.
I understand. I also, you can go first or I can go first. I had a couple things I wanted to bring up
Okay.
about the legislation too.
Okay, I just wanted to make this observation that based on approximately 50 million scans, 96 to 97% of the hot list hits over 2 years were for suspended plate or suspended or revoked plates. That means that only 3 or 4% of the alerts related to the serious crimes that this tool is marketed as. So it's, when I see data like that, it says to
Yeah.
me, you know,
We don't use it as a traffic enforcement tool. So if there's a dozen suspended regis driving the city of Troy, is it concerning to us as a community? Maybe. Is there police there sitting at Flock ready to say, oh, there's a suspended registration on Hoosick Street? No. What in large part, as demonstrated by the data that we provide for the 60 days, and then just our anecdotal retelling, is we use as an investigative tool for the more serious crimes. And so we typically don't populate a hot list. It would not necessarily, we don't use it extremely as that tool where we know what vehicle we're looking for. Now we put it in there and then we wait for it to hit. What we use it more as is an investigative tool is to develop the lead. And then once we know what vehicle we're looking for, potentially we'll put it into a hot list, but maybe we wouldn't because we don't want necessarily any patrol officer stopping this vehicle. Maybe once we have it identified, we want detectives to sit on it for a while or further develop that lead. So while there's many reads and a fraction of them are for suspended registration or a stolen plate, it's just not something that
most
we're
of them
utilizing it
for
for.
suspended,
And so we're not using
97%.
and we're not using it for that. So it's, while that's important to us, not really. And to the point of this continued discussion of that most of the cases are within the 48-hour window. It's because most of the work, the reactive work we do is solved in that, most of the arrests are at the scene of the total arrests that we make. But we cannot discount just because most of them were in 48 hours, that those ones that were in excess of 48 hours are not important to us, or we're making this balance of, well, we have to cut those out because these things may happen. I think to some of the other council members' points, you would just put in necessary safeguards to protect the data so that you would still have it post 48 hours. But to the same extent, if there is misuse, you have these tools and this accessibility to hold those accountable because no one wants it to be misused. People want it to be used for good. And I think to the chief's point, it's not for the material benefit of the officers. Do the officers get contentment out of solving a case? Of course they do. But we have to recognize that, and I believe you do, that the people that we're doing this for, the people that the officers are then working for, are the people that are coming to the officers to solicit help from them. And so that's why the argument, sometimes potentially we get a little too passionate, that yes, the majority are within 48 hours. We cannot discount the ones that are in excess of 48 hours.
Okay. Go ahead, Chief. I'm finished.
So, thank you. So in the legislation, there's no mention of misdemeanors at all. And there's quite a few violent misdemeanors out there. There's, you know, I mean, and I just think, I mean, there's, where are they? We made a little, handout for you guys to have too, when we're done. But say like assault in the third degree, sexual misconduct, criminal obstruction of breathing, custodial interference, obstructing governmental administration, criminal contempt, which is whenever you have a violation of order of protection, endangering the welfare of a child, unlawfully dealing with a child, and so on and so on. I mean, I have a list here, and there's many more than this. We just compiled about 30 of them. But I mean, and also you don't even know what you're going to have when you're starting your investigation. It could become a felony, and now you're like, oh, darn, you know what I mean? We thought it was going to be a misdemeanor, so we weren't able to run the plate. Now it's a felony, and we don't have that evidence for the prosecutor or that tidbit of being able to find the person, or, you know what I mean? So it's like, I think you should really rethink the misdemeanors and put them back in, or maybe you can take a portion of them and put them in, you know, the really serious ones. You know, even a DWI suspect or something, you know what I mean? It's like, that's only a misdemeanor, you know, it's important. Those
But you have
are
other
important crimes.
tools that you can use, right? I mean, you've said that tonight.
We don't have, no, I'm talking about the LPRs specifically. So if this person's fleeing in a vehicle and it's a misdemeanor, well, then you can't use the LPR to assist in
Right, but
solving that case. And then you find out that, oh, guess what? It's not a misdemeanor. The custodial interference becomes a kidnapping, you know, and you've lost that ability to have had, that you would have had if we were able to run the plate as a misdemeanor.
okay.
I mean, it's very important. I mean, I'm kind of passionate about that, because a lot of things start out one way and they end up another way. And to lose that ability to find that person, or to find that kid whose parents stole them, or, you know what I mean? Or that person that was just raped, you know, it starts out as sexual misconduct, and then you find out, oh no, he really forced me, you know, because now she feels better a couple of days later. Oh, sorry, we're not able to do that because you told us it was a misdemeanor, and now that is gone, you know? So it's, I don't know, it's just very important.
But are you saying you couldn't solve that crime without this data?
No, we might be able to solve it, but I mean, my God, it's a huge help. It's an assistance at times. Sometimes it's no assistance at all, but sometimes it is assistance to us, you know?
Thank you. Go ahead.
Chair, may I ask a question?
Sure.
With regards to the panhandling signs, would you say that the criminal tampering is a serious misdemeanor?
No.
No, but it was
It
used.
depends, though. I mean, like in this instance, criminal tampering, a lot of things fall under that. You know, I mean, it could be messing with somebody's utilities. That could be
And
serious.
it's
you know?
criminal tampering of an anti-panhandling sign now, but as you said, it could evolve into something like tipping over cows in a field.
It could,
Right.
but we don't have any cows here, so I'd say no.
Right. Right. Okay, but it was used. Flock was used in pursuit of that. Do you think that that is an appropriate practice going forward?
I leave that up to you. You know, I mean, it's used for all kinds of things. You know what I mean? It's used for, like you said, it's used for suspended vehicles. It's used for a stolen plate. Those aren't felonies either, you know?
Right.
I mean, it's,
Yeah, we're trying
Okay,
to.
thank you. And thank you, Chair.
Okay.
but I definitely, you know, like I said, we can compile a list of misdemeanors that are serious misdemeanors that I just think we're really missing the boat here. I mean, if we don't include those, it's going to be very detrimental to a lot of victims out there that we're not going to have evidence for. You
But
know? And like you said, I know could we solve it without it? Maybe we could, maybe we couldn't, you know? I mean, I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball, but I know that this helps us.
okay. Thank you. Anything else you'd like to offer?
There's different points in the legislation. You talk about really outlawing any sort of sharing whatsoever. That's a tricky road to go on. And I understand some of it's outlined through the necessity for a search warrant, but if you don't have the information to support the search warrant, then you wouldn't have access to that data. And with how transient crime can be, the murder in Lansingburg we would not have access to certain data as part of that investigation, nor be able to have obtained a search warrant for that data without the local sharing that we have in place. So I think these are just considerations separate from retention. Obviously, it's lengthy legislation, other parts of it that need to be addressed. And then specifically to the chief's point of misdemeanor versus felony, you're also requesting of the initial responding officers to be making that delineation in their head while they're doing all of these other things, whether they're allowed to do this. And if they're not, they're immediately under punishment as legislated. I think it's just dangerous work. It's a dangerous road to go down to the chief's point of a list of misdemeanors. If they're going to a shots fired complaint, a newer supervisor or police officer may assume, oh, I have a felony, I can use this, but just an immediate shots fired response is not necessarily a felony. That's not necessarily, doesn't potentially rise to the level of felony until we have some more information about that would involve the felonious charges. So I think it's, when you get that granular, it's getting more significantly difficult for everyone involved, whether it's the responding police or the prosecutors, or certainly the people that, because I understand we're all in the same position here. We're all trying to pull in the same direction of making this community safe. That's hamstringing you as well.
Well, we're trying to balance your ability to use this tool with protection of Fourth Amendment rights and people's awareness of their rights being attacked is heightened. I think you'd agree with that during these past couple of years. And we're seeing voting rights may be attacked in November. And we've got masked agents kidnapping people off the streets. People are very, very concerned about protecting their privacy. So we're trying to thread the needle here, and it's very, very difficult. And I appreciate the work that you do, and we thank you for the work you do. And I hope we can come to some agreement on this legislation.
I hope so too. I hope this isn't the end of it before you move forward with your current legislation, because we would certainly talk more about it. You know, even if it's just.
We are going to make some amendments to the current legislation. And I think we're ready to adjourn, or.
What about the putting the city on kind of in a bad position with the enforcement section, you know what I mean, with the liability on the city? I
You
mean,
don't have teeth, you know.
yeah. I mean, yeah, I mean,
history
it's
shows us
it's for the plaintiff. It's not going to necessarily affect us unless it's found that they were harmed as a result of a police officer running it. But I don't know.
We'll be keeping that in.
Okay.
Do I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion. Second.
A second? Okay. Thank you.
Excuse me.
Thank you all.
Approval for the JAG grant funding is also on the agenda for this evening while we're here.
Sorry.
Approval for the JAG grant funding is also on the agenda for this evening. Would you like to address any questions now while we're here, or have us come back when you get to that?
That's on the finance committee.
It was on the finance committee, but if anyone,
If you'd like to.
if you don't want to stick around, I can ask does anyone have any questions off the top of your heads at this moment? Then I guess we'll consider it in finance, but apparently there are no questions.
Thank you.
And you said you had a handout for us with the misdemeanors.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank you
very
all.
much.
We'll be taking a 5-minute recess before we begin the finance committee meeting. We would ask you folks to kindly take your seats. We're going to get underway. We've got a busy night ahead of us. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Councilmember Di Lorenzo,
Present.
Councilmember Struber,
Present.
Councilmember Spain McLaren,
Present.
Councilmember McKee, Councilmember Favreau,
Present.
Councilmember Campbell Cohen,
Present.
and Council President Steele also present. Our agenda this evening was going to include or includes one local law and a number of ordinances. Given the information we received during the Public Safety Committee meeting, the local law number 3 will not be considered this evening. We want to take into consideration that information, have discussions among ourselves. So that will be coming up at a future date. And at this point, we have a public forum where anyone can speak on any agenda item. If you're interested in what is on the agenda, there are copies in the rear of the chambers. But if you are interested in speaking on any item that is on the agenda, please come forward and state your name and your place of residence. Does anyone wish to speak on any agenda item?
Just to clarify, does this include the agenda items that were previously discussed
In public safety?
in public
No.
safety? Yes, no,
No.
okay. Okay. Sorry, I forgot the resolution number. Someone else can go because I don't remember the resolution number that I had. I had it written down and I lost it. 1 second, sorry.
Good evening, council members. My name is Frankie and I'm a resident of Troy. And I'd like to express my full support for local law number 4 for all the reasons I previously stated at the public hearings. I also want to commend Councilmember Struber for crafting such an airtight, comprehensive law. It was clearly well-researched, well-circulated, and well thought out. I appreciate the professionalism and the attention to detail, and I hope we can see more legislation of this caliber in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Frankie.
Okay, mine was also local law number 4. I was looking under resolutions for some reason. Hi, I also wanted to express support for local law number 4. I think that it is very important that we are consistent with the New York State executive law. I also wanted to make the remark that we've been in a state of emergency since April 1st, and I don't really understand why. I know that at several meetings, people have requested clarity about that and what it is about the specific state of emergency that we're in right now that justifies still being under that state of emergency. But to my understanding, that information hasn't been completely disclosed. And it seems that between the different leadership members of the city, there's a lot of discord and kind of nasty remarks made, especially by the mayor's office, that I think are not conducive to allowing the public to understand what it is that's going on. People come to, social media pages, email lists, and things of that nature to get information, and instead are met with personal attacks, AI generated videos of you, Councilmember McKee, that have been circulating on the Facebook page of a Troy City official that I was a little bit alarmed to see because I thought they were real at first. And then I realized they were in fact AI generated, and that concerns me greatly. So I feel personally that it is very important not only that local law 4 be passed, but that it becomes sort of a guiding light into a standard of decorum that we should all come to expect from all city officials. And unfortunately, I have not been able to access a lot of the information that I personally had hoped to see about the state of emergency because the mayor has me blocked. Thank you.
For the record, would you please state your name?
Oh, I'm so sorry. I thought I did. I'm H.G. Warnder, and I live in downtown.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to address the council on an agenda item? Seeing none, we'll move along. Local law number 4, a local law amending the charter of the city of Troy by repealing and replacing section C40, public emergencies, to align it with state of New York executive law, article 2B, regarding emergency declaration. Councilmember Struber. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember Spain Claren,
Second.
seconded by Councilmember McKee. Discussion on the local law.
Chair.
Councilmember Struber.
I'm not going to repeat my remarks from previous times, but I did want to put states of emergencies into perspective to shed some light on the importance of outlining the proper procedures per state law. Troy's current mayor has been in office since January of 2024 and has declared 8 emergencies. Mayor Cram of Binghamton, in office since 2022, has declared 2 states of emergency, both for large snowstorms. Mayor Owens of Syracuse has been in office since December of 2025, has declared 0 states of emergency. Previous Mayor Walsh of Syracuse was in office from 2018 to 2025 and declared 2 states of emergency. Mayor Noble of Kingston has been in office since 2016, which is over 10 years, and has declared 3 states of emergency, one of which was for COVID precautions. Mayor Appelers of Albany has only been in office since January of 2026 and has not had any emergency declarations. Previous Mayor Sheehan was in office from 2014 to 2025 for 11 years and had 17 emergency declarations. The COVID state of emergency was renewed monthly per state law 16 times. These are just some of our neighboring municipalities, similar size, similar makeup of Troy. But the overarching theme that can be seen is that Troy has a suspiciously high number of emergency declarations that has cost the city money. Clear communication and defined processes are essential during an emergency. State executive law is not necessarily easy to read or easy to find the pertinent sections, especially when there's an emergency happening. Outlining the same requirements that exist in New York State executive law in Troy's own charter allows for much simpler access for reference. And if defining a process causes an executive to assume that their power is being curtailed, that is a good indication that they may have been misusing the spirit and intent of that statute. In order to protect the city, its finances, and its residents, I'm recommending the proposed changes under local law number 4 to bring Troy in line with existing New York State law.
Thank you. Does anyone else have a comment? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Local law 4 is adopted unanimously 7-0. Ordinances, ordinance 31. Ordinance amending chapter 285 of the Troy City Code to include battery energy storage systems. Councilmember Struber, is there a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember McKee, second.
Second.
Councilmember Favreau. Discussion on the ordinance.
Chair,
Councilmember Struber.
I noticed a couple of typos, so I would like to make a motion to make the following amendments to the ordinance. Amending section 2A to define tier 1 batteries as less than 600 kilowatt hours. Amending section 4D1 to add zones BD, MF, and TF. And amending section 4F14 to change 1% to 10% as the requirement for emergency operations funds.
There's a motion made on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Favreau. Discussion on the motion to amend.
Sure.
Councilmember Campbell Cohen.
For the zoning districts that you're adding to the list, can you just repeat those and say what the acronyms are?
BD, business district, MF, multifamily, and TF, two-family.
Thank you.
Any other questions or discussions on the amendment? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The amendment carries. On the amended ordinance, any discussion? Rick, did you want to share something? Yeah. We need a mic for you.
Thank you. So I did email Councilperson Struber on several occasions. The council cannot act on the ordinance because no seeker has been done. This is a type 1 seeker action. Also, it probably requires a referral to the county planning agency. And under our amendment process for the zoning code, it requires a referral to the planning board.
Doesn't all of that happen after it goes through finance? I thought that's what we had talked about. The finance was first and then the.
No,
rules.
you can't take any action. Under seeker, you can't take any action until on the legislation until you've done the seeker analysis. So someone has to be, it's a type 1, you have to be declared lead agency. You have to send out notices for 30 days. The only thing I think you probably could do is refer to the planning board because that is not a substantive action.
And can you walk us through the process of whom does these steps?
Well, the lead agency does.
No, but submitting it to them. How am I submitting this to SECRA? Are you doing that? How does that work?
So there's no submission to seeker. I don't quite understand your question. Seeker is a process of review for environmental impacts.
Yes. So how
It's
do
for-
they know
it's
this is
for-
happening?
Who's they?
The planning
There's-
board,
Pardon?
the planning board?
No, you can refer this to the planning board. Yeah, and you have to, but I don't think the planning board is the appropriate, is the lead, it would be appropriate to act as the lead agency. in
Can
this.
we name ourselves lead agency
Yes, you can.
and we can do the short form?
No, you can't.
So can you walk us through the process of the
Of
next
s-
steps?
Of seeker,
Yeah.
okay, what you have to do is you would have to resolve to act as lead agency. Then you would have to send out notices to all the involved agencies of what you're proposing to do. In addition, you'd have to refer it to the county planning agency. After waiting 30 days, you can then declare yourself the lead agency and act on the legislation. However, you have to prepare a full environmental assessment form.
Well, okay.
So is there a reason that that was not provided when I asked it via email and this?
So when
ended up on
I
the
mentioned
agenda?
it to you several times,
And I asked you
and-
the process.
and
several
I
times.
gave you the process for, and I mentioned I have the email with me.
Me too.
Okay, so I mean, I gave you the process and I told you that I didn't know what you were planning to do with seeker.
And I
but-
asked
but-
you exactly what I just asked you right now, which is the process. There was not
I
a
gave you-
response.
I specifically gave you a
let-
process, ma'am. I did not try to hide anything or anything like that, but if I answered the questions that were asked me.
I think we have a communication problem. It could be on both ends. I don't know what it is, but I don't think it serves any purpose to go back and forth. Would you please put what you just stated, the steps, in writing to the entire council?
I can do that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Motion to table.
Yeah. I would entertain a motion to table.
Motion.
Councilmember
Second.
McLaren with a second by Councilmember Favreau. Thank you, Rick. We have a motion to table, or discussion on the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ordinance 31 is tabled. Ordinance 34. Ordinance authorizing settlement of claim to wit Ajit Kanuja et al. Versus City of Troy et al., United States District Court for the Northern District of New York. Civil action number 126 CV 1019. Council President Steele at the request of the administration. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember McLaren with a second by Councilmember McKee. Discussion on the ordinance. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ordinance 34 is adopted unanimously, 7-0. Ordinance 35, ordinance amending the 2026 capital fund budget. Council President Steele at the request of the administration. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember Struber with a second by
Second.
Councilmember Favreau. Discussion on the ordinance. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ordinance 35 is adopted unanimously, 7-0. Ordinance 36, ordinance amending the 2026 general fund budget. Council President Steele at the request of the administration. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember McKee with a second by
Second.
Councilmember Di Lorenzo. Discussion on the ordinance.
Chair,
Councilmember Campbell Cohen.
is the comptroller available for comment? Hey, Mike, how are you?
Anasha, can we move the podium around so folks have someplace to put their papers?
Sort of similar to, I think it was ordinance 16 with the water fund. I'm seeing in ordinance 36, the revenue that's getting added is through the appropriated fund balance. That's $1 million. What is that?
That's an actual revenue line just to budget the appropriated fund balance
I understand, but where is that money coming from?
from the unassigned fund balance.
Okay. And so,
In theory, yes. I mean, we're appropriating fund balance.
Right.
So in theory, if need be, if expenditures outperform revenues, then yeah, we'll have to pull from the unassigned in overall.
where are we at with the unassigned fund balance at the moment?
I honestly don't have that number in front of me. It's, I know that the fund, whatever, the total fund balance, I'd be lying if I could recall it. It's in the teens total fund balance. The unassigned, I don't know, but I can get it to you.
Okay. I'm gonna ask that when we're appropriating something from another fund, if we can know what's in that fund going forward with these kind
Right.
of ordinances.
Well, this is from the same fund, but yeah, you want to know what's in
Right,
the,
but we're putting 1 million in revenue from something else. I'd like to know.
from the.
I'd
from the
like
fund.
to know how much is in that something else. going
Understood.
forward.
Okay.
And you're confident we're,
I would say, I hate to throw a number out. It's the total fund balance, including the unassigned and the restricted and such. I want to say 1214. I'm sorry, I haven't looked at it was in the AFR that was submitted. You can see it there.
Okay.
I could, if you want, I could go probably retrieve such.
Well, we are voting on this again at the special meeting. Would it be too much to ask that you
No.
check on it?
Yeah, it was
just before.
I'll put whatever was reported in the AFR. I'll
Okay.
get you the total fund balance.
All right.
Okay.
Well, thank you.
Any other questions for Mike? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ordinance 36 is adopted 7-0. Ordinance
Thank you.
37, ordinance amending the 2026 capital fund budget. Council President Steele at the request of the administration. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember Struber with a second by Councilmember McKee. Discussion on ordinance 37. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ordinance is adopted unanimously 7-0. Ordinance 38, ordinance amending the 2026 capital fund budget. Council President Steele, at the request of the administration. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember McLaren,
Second.
seconded by Councilmember McKee. Discussion on ordinance 38.
Chair,
Councilmember Di Lorenzo.
I'd just like to ask to be added as co-sponsor to ordinance 38, and I'd ask that the clerk reflect that in the legislation.
Okay. We're adding Councilmember Di Lorenzo as a co-sponsor. Any other comments or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ordinance 38 adopted unanimously 7-0. Ordinance 39, ordinance amending the 2026 capital fund budget. Council President Steele at the request of the administration. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember McKee with a second by Councilmember McLaren. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ordinance 39 is adopted unanimously 7-0. Ordinance 40, ordinance amending the 2026 miscellaneous special revenue fund to accept funds from the United States Department of Justice as part of the Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Grant. Council President Steele at the request of the administration. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember Struber, second. Councilmember McKee.
Sure.
Discussion on the ordinance. All in favor?
Aye.
Ordinance is adopted 7-0. Ordinance 41. Ordinance authorizing settlement of claim to wit Joseph Martinez versus the City of Troy and Towers on the Hudson, Rensselaer County Supreme Court Index number EF 2023-273-522. Council President Steele at the request of the administration. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember McLaren with a second by Councilmember Di Lorenzo. Discussion on the ordinance? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ordinance is adopted unanimously 7-0. Ordinance 42, ordinance amending the 2026 general fund budget. Council President Steele at the request of the administration. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember McLaren,
Second.
seconded by Councilmember McKee. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ordinance is adopted 7-0. Ordinance 43, ordinance amending the general fund, capital projects fund, and miscellaneous special grants fund budgets to appropriate funding from the American Rescue Plan Act. Council President Steele at the request of the administration. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember Favreau,
Second.
seconded by Councilmember McLaren. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ordinance is adopted unanimously 7-0. Ordinance 44. Ordinance amending the general fund, garbage fund, water fund, and sewer fund budgets. Council President Steele at the request of the administration. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember McKee, Second,
Second.
Councilmember McLaren. Discussion on the ordinance? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ordinance is adopted 7-0. Moving on to resolutions, Resolution 82, resolution determining that proposed action is a type 2 action for purposes of the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act. Council President Steele, at the request of the administration, is there a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember McLaren, second.
Second.
Councilmember Struber. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution 82 is adopted 7-0. Resolution 83, bond resolution of the City of Troy, New York, authorizing the issuance of $650,000 in serial bonds to finance the purchase of machinery and apparatus for construction and maintenance. Council President Steele, at the request of the administration, is there a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember McLaren, second. Seconded by Councilmember McKee. Discussion?
Chair,
Councilmember Struber?
is anybody from the administration here for questions? Thank you very much for including most of what I was going to ask in your memo of support.
You're welcome.
The item that I'm not seeing though, do these new trucks have backup cameras?
They should, if they're not in the spec, then I can update. Yeah.
We
Okay.
can update the specs for that for sure.
Okay. That's all I had.
Great question.
Very pertinent. Any other comments, questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution 83 is adopted 7-0. Resolution 84, resolution honoring honorary street designation of Kevin Pryor Way. Council President Steele, Councilmember Spain McLaren, at the request of the administration. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember McKee, second.
Second.
Councilmember Di Lorenzo. Discussion on the resolution?
Chair,
Councilmember Struber?
I was supposed to email Addie earlier this week to ask to co-sponsor and I forgot.
Please add Councilmember Struber as a co-sponsor. Any
Chair.
other? Councilmember McKee?
I would also like to co-sponsor this.
Is there anyone who wouldn't want to go? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution 84 is adopted 7-0. Resolution 85, resolution of the Troy City Council authorizing a change of traffic direction on Jacob Street between River and King Street. Council President Steele, at the request of the administration, is there a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember McKee with a second by Councilmember McLaren. Under discussion, we've received a lot of comments about this resolution. I'm concerned and think we need time to consider it and follow up with their concerns. So I would entertain a motion. I would move that we table.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion that made and seconded to table. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution 85 is tabled. That concludes our agenda for the Finance Committee meeting. I would, do you want a 5-minute break?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Could I have a motion to adjourn first?
Motion.
Councilmember McLaren, second by Councilmember Struber.
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned for a 5-minute break. Okay, thank you, everyone. We're going to get back in gear here after our break. We're going to be listening to the controller present the Q2 financial report as prescribed by the charter. Mike, do you have, just to answer Councilmember Campbell Cohen's question, do you have the fund balance tally?
19 and a half.
Thank you, Controller.
You got it. We work as a team. We're not honed in on one person.
Okay, we have questions for Mike, folks.
If I may, Chair, I wanted to quickly just give an overview. Couple quick things. First and foremost, just kudos to the team, to the comptroller, to our treasurer, Gabrielle Mahoney, our comptroller, Mike McNeff, Deputy Mayor Seamus Donnelly, to all the department heads. They have just done an incredible job over the last 2 years, controlling expenditures, literally providing more services, quality services, and efficient. Going into Q2, to recap the last 2.5 years, just huge kudos to our team. We continue to remain under budget. We continue to have superior credit and bond ratings. We also, as acknowledged when the LDC for Proctor City Hall, use the city as the backing for some of the information for the bonding on that, showed the strong capacity of our bonding rating, our bond rating, strong capacity to pay debt service. The report in front of you truly continues to demonstrate our commitment to fiscal responsibility, controlling our expenditures, maintaining that strong credit rating, and more importantly, strategic investments throughout the community. Once again, 2024-25, we've added to our budget surplus. We're on track to do so again this year. We are currently under budget. You'll see Q2 continues to maintain that all across our expenditure funds. Contractual expenses are down by more than $300,000. As I mentioned, we continue our strong credit and bond rating. In July, we received the highest short-term bond rating from S&P Global Ratings, superior credit quality, excellent protection from established cash flows, broad access to financial markets, and we continue to have a very strong capacity to pay principal, interest, and debt service. This is all predicated on being efficient, continuing. My staff hates when I say more with less. We continue, though, to provide more services. We continue to control expenditures. Many of the projects, in fact, tonight, for a park improvement project continues to move forward. Many of the long overdue projects are happening because of that strong financial status. The brand new state-of-the-art firehouse in Lansingburg, obviously you need a strong bond rating, credit rating to make that happen. It's happening now. Our annual infrastructure improvement plan continue to make critical investments, I should say, in our road and infrastructure. And then just lastly, the $42 million in ARPA funding, that doesn't happen overnight. We know it began several years ago during COVID, post-COVID, but that ARPA money going out the door, I cannot say enough about our Deputy Mayor and Gabrielle, our treasurer, who have overseen
the disbursements, tracked the expenditures, reviewed invoices, literally hundreds of phone calls, because several municipalities decided to appropriate ARPA money for 5 or 6 projects. As you know, we took a different tactic years ago while I was council president and the prior administration. We have several projects, I think over 70 maybe. Yep, if not more. So saying that, just kudos to our team. We will be finished with ARPA money. Every penny will get out the door by the end of this year, December 31st, 2026. And I want to thank the council for working with us. Obviously, this evening was a huge step, reappropriating some of that ARPA money. Additionally, the first time since the garbage fee, which we all know was temporary, then permanent, first time that we've reduced the annual garbage fee. I talk about increasing our services. Once again, last week we finished the free at home bulk. First time in decades that we've provided that to the residents of Troy. Once again, we're just looking for more services, quality services, efficient services for every taxpayer dollar that goes out that door. We'll continue to not only picking up new people who now are coming back to the city because of the quality, the efficiency. I want to give kudos to our General Services Commissioner, Joe Mazzarillo, who has just done a remarkable job with the Quality of Life Action Task Force and all of our general services and all of our team. But once again, we continue investing in our city, protecting our assets, and I can't say enough about the team. We look forward to going over Q2 with you, and we're open to any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. That's why we're here. Council members. Mike, did you have a opening statement as well, or can we just jump into our?
No, we can roll right into it.
Okay, let's do that.
Council President.
Councilmember Campbell Cohen.
I've got a handful of questions. Maybe just go page by page so that we're not
Sure.
jumping back and forth. For licenses and permits, I'm seeing a pretty substantial drop off from this time last year, and there's a bunch of different codes lumped in. Do you know which licenses or permits have dropped off?
The decrease is primarily building permits. So, however, we do have a couple of big projects in the hopper that obviously haven't reflected yet and we're guessing about between 400,000 to 600,000 in permit fees sometime this year. So that should pick up.
So, council member, it's not a decrease. We're just waiting on those 2 big projects, the fees coming in, which will be in by the end of the year.
Okay, yeah, it's just relative to this time
Yep.
last year. I understand that nothing's like on track all the time. And then similarly for fines and forfeitures, it's not as dramatic, but do you know which codes account for that drop off?
Looks like parking and traffic. We're both down.
Okay. And my last question for the first page is looking at the sales tax is nothing. It's not a dramatic drop off from last year, but it is dramatically lower than where it would have to be to hit the budget projection. Are we going to see an amendment to those revenue projections before the end?
Well, unfortunately, we don't know the end result of sales tax till well into the following year. In fact, that's only one of 4 distributions that is reflected in this report, which is part of the problem. And, I do see it's down. I just want to note that the state overall, I'm a miss on this number because the state overall was up 6% for the same reporting period. Our friends across the river looks like they were up about 11%. So, yeah,
I think the county is up as well. So it's interesting that the The city is not,
Yeah.
The county,
is up.
no.
Yeah.
Not for this reporting period. Otherwise, we would have been, we would have seen a,
There's a lag, right? For what comes in. It's like
yeah, this,
something, okay.
Correct.
I think Q2 was better for the county than Q1.
Correct. And unfortunately, that's what's so tough. And we've talked about it. The sales tax for the end of the year does not come in until March, April, the following year. So we're always a quarter behind.
Okay.
So we anticipate those numbers going up.
I'm going to address this to you all because that's the structure of this conversation, but it's really for the benefit of the public. The way that our sales tax agreement is set up with the county, things really plateau. So the county can pull in way more money, and that's barely reflected in what we're actually seeing for revenue. It's an old agreement. I'm hoping, I know that it has to be renewed.
actually, I believe it's up this year.
Yeah, February, I think, is when it's done.
Yeah, no, it's a very aggressive revenue sharing formula.
I'm
I
pleased
mean,
to hear you say that.
because we continually do receive a smaller and smaller piece of the pie as as they grow.
But sort of the practical impact of that for this year in particular is when we're projecting big jumps in sales taxes, it would have to be like astronomical jumps in county sales tax collections for it to even come close.
Yeah, we're cautiously optimistic still, but yeah, it's, and we've seen we're out. Yeah, we've seen quarters with dramatic increases, but so yeah, well, obviously we don't have a crystal ball, and the looks like inflation's still out there. So unfortunately, that normally boosts sales tax revenues up. But anyhow.
Okay, well, thank you. That's it for page 1 on my end. Oh, thank you.
Council President.
Councilmember McLaren.
Just piggybacking off of that, when does that agreement, you said it's up this coming
I
year?
believe it. I don't have it in front of me. I believe it is up this year.
And is that something that is negotiated, or is it just kind of dictated?
I'd have to defer. Yeah, I'm assuming.
Should be.
It's council, it's definitely something that's negotiated, and it is definitely something that we've been discussing. Like that was noted here, that we, of course, like every agreement, are always going to look at it for what the best interest of Troy is.
Right.
I mean, look, we're the largest municipality in the county. So
Right.
I think that, that should play into a factor, of course, when we're trying to get our fair share of our sales tax that we're producing.
Yeah. Could I also make the suggestion that it be brought up that we also provide hazmat rescue services, ropes rescue at no cost to the county, throughout the county at a cost to our fire department.
We do. That's correct as well. And there, if you were on the Rensselaer County end, they would talk about different ways that they helped implement our new radio system that they paid for too. But we understand, we fostered what I would believe is the most beneficial relationship yet between the county and the city and different things that we've done so far. And we want to build off of that more, and, just going down a little bit of the direction. Like it's been brought up, we'd love to negotiate our spend on 911 as well, because again, there's different angles that you can look at that as well. So those are conversations that we have ongoingly with the county as we get closer to this tax agreement. I think we can all agree. We definitely want to see it improved for the city of Troy, since I would imagine that we're such a driver of sales tax in the county, being its largest municipality and just the best place to be around. So.
Right. Thank you.
Councilmember McKee.
Is there any way that we can get an idea or an exact figure of the sales tax generated by the city of Troy? mean, how do we know what?
So the only, and Mike, you can chime in, everything that I've seen, I don't know, and this would be something that we would broach when we get in with Rensselaer County. I know OSC provides a report that breaks it down as the county as a whole, but to your point there as well, that's another thing that we could look into, explore to see. I'd have to imagine somewhere, I don't know if that's where the percentage system came from originally, because it's so archaic to try to track it exactly to Troy. That's what I've always assumed, frankly, but that would definitely be something that we'd look towards if we can. And maybe that there's other ways to try to aggregate it kind of forensically to see exactly where we are and what we'd really be driving. So, but again, that's something that we've had discussions on that we intend on looking into as we get closer to that agreement expiring.
Thank you.
Councilman, sorry.
I just have, and Mayor, you mentioned that the bond rating, short-term bond rating hasn't been upgraded. Can you tell me what it is?
No, hasn't been upgraded.
It's an SP1 plus, I believe is the,
S&P 1
it
plus?
says SP-1 plus, I believe is the official,
Which is the highest.
It's
which is the highest level they provide
That's
correct.
short-term.
Yep.
for a short-term rating is correct.
Yep.
You have any
Chair?
more questions?
No.
Councilmember Campbell Cohen.
To the point about the sales tax numbers, I've been talking to a couple state agencies about it, and what we can get is going to take some work to make legible in any way, and like the margin of error is huge. But I can only speak for myself. I am very happy to be a partner on that. Like, you have my full support if you are renegotiating City of Troy, and I just want to make that clear that I hope that we are brought in as partners, because I think we're probably pretty simpatico on the
We appreciate that. We really do. Because, it's like, as the deputy mayor stated, we have definitely improved the relationship with the county in terms of projects, the ice rink and other projects. Board of Elections moved, stayed in Troy. They talked about leaving Troy. So things like that. I mean, the good news, relationships, partnerships have improved. This sales tax agreement is archaic. And I can remember back in the late 90s when I was council member, the council and the city manager at the time was stating the very same thing that we're stating today, that Troy is just not getting its fair share. So we do plan to do everything humanly possible, and we appreciate your support with that.
Are there any other questions on page 1?
Council President.
Councilmember Favreau.
Circling back to the fines and forfeitures, where are the redemptions and like dog fines included? Is that line as well?
Thing that would be in
Yeah.
license.
Yeah.
I believe that would be in license and permits, because those actually get handled through the city clerk's office. So they should be in that category.
So if like a dog is picked up and doesn't have a license, and then they get a fine for not having that, that would go through permits and license.
Oh, well, maybe I misunderstood that. So that fine, I'd have to get back to you on that one to
Okay.
make sure. I'm not sure where that
Fine.
funnels into, because ultimately I would imagine if that person either paid or went through the court system, that might end up dumping back into fines, but I'm
Yeah.
not sure. And we can look into that.
Yeah. And then the only other question that I had for that category is HBO. Do we charge them, or like the current crew that's here now, are we charging them a permit fee for using and closing down our space?
Yet, yes and yes to both and movie entities.
Yeah.
Our television show and movie entity. So yes, we did. The Gilded Age, as we all know, we're very happy to see them. They have a lot of benefits coming here to the city of Troy. Outside of just, it's really cool to watch the show and really see your neighbor's house in it. But outside of that, they always would reimburse the city for using our police and all of our other services. I want to say maybe in years past, they also were willing to donate to say to the arts. this season, this year of the Gilded Age, I do believe is the first time the city actually just charged them an amount just generally for being here. And that was charged to the Gilded Age, and a similar, not necessarily in dollar amount, just because of the scale. It will, same thing with the Conjuring moving going on, that they will reimburse our city services that are used and also pay a permit fee as well. Which another thing we do, staff tracks what they spend, what overtime police using, what everybody's using. They open up a hydrant, for one of their rain scenes. They're paying, a hydrant opening fee. So they pay every fee that any other business or resident would pay, or organization to utilize the services here. And then on top of that, and they also, I can speak for the Gilded Age and HBO. I think then they also even went a little further. They might have supported the downtown bid, I believe. We're willing to plant some trees, a couple different things. So, they really are great to work with. Of course, there's a couple bumps in the road with all types big operations like that, but otherwise they've been great to work with.
You mentioned donating trees. Are those the trees they cut down or more trees on top?
Oh, so on top, they always are going to replace anything in kind that they might, say damage or disrupt. But I do believe, and again, I'm not 100% sure, but I believe, especially through the downtown bid, there was a discussion of donation. And I do think one of those issues, and as I see Councilmember McKee nodding her head, so I believe I'm heading in the right direction, that part of that was going to get used to plant some trees as well. I don't believe necessarily just trees that were taken down. Also not 100% aware of trees that were taken down.
There were a couple
was
of trees, I believe at least 2 trees cut down in District 4 for the filming. I do know those 2 were replaced, but the only other question that I had is on this spreadsheet, it does show a line for the appropriated fund balances, and that would be really useful to have in the future moving forward, because I know the AFR is referenced and that's reflecting as of December 2025. And I know we have been pulling money from those funds.
No, so if this would get populated as such if we actually pulled from appropriated fund balance.
Oh, okay.
Or if we recognize appropriated fund.
But we
balance.
have, right?
No,
It was
no, we budgeted.
refund. Okay.
No, okay.
Sorry.
But even then, you're not going to. It's a budgeting mechanism to set up an appropriated fund balance revenue line. It's forced out by pulling from fund balance when the revenues and or expenditures outperform each other, and it nets out that way. So it's
Okay.
If we move it out of the fund, then you would see something as such.
So we did that today.
Yes.
See it in Q3.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. That's it for page 1. Yeah.
Anyone else have anything on page 1? Okay, let's move on to 2.
Sure.
Councilmember Campbell Cohen.
Looking at the temporary positions, it looks like there's about a 20% jump. And I was just curious what is driving that.
That I don't have an answer for, unfortunately.
Could we get a loose sense of just what temporary positions do exist within the?
An example of a temporary position. I know something that, that we did budget for example, is that we have a hotspot crew in part of our streets crew. They're part-time work. Basically, when you see temporary, it's going to refer to part-time staff, usually. So that would be an example where there's part-time on top of our manning and job positions that are in those in the streets department. For example, we have a crew that goes out part-time weekends in certain areas to try to tackle certain hot spots. Not sure if that's the exact reasoning for the jump there, but that is also that's like an example as well.
Are there other departments besides DPW where there are temporary employees?
We might have, I'm sure that there is a couple in other departments as well. Sometimes too, usually, although sometimes when staff might stay on after they retire, they sometimes are either part of a contracted consultant agreement or they stay on part-time. Exactly how many and where they are off the top of my head, I wouldn't be able to provide that.
Okay, I would love to double back to that, but we can just email about it.
We'll follow up with you.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, and council member, if you're looking for straight up, Parks Department, obviously Knickerbocker Ice Rink, there's part-time at the golf course. There's seasonal. So in terms of not the additional, the hotspots were added, God bless you. But those are example of part-timers, so to give you an idea.
Okay, thank you. That's it, thank you.
Councilmember Favreau?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm jumping back to page 1. Real property taxes. I can see that the full 29 mil has been billed. How much have we actually received?
And I do have. We've collected about 57% of the levy through June.
Okay. Final payment was in July, right? Am I getting it correct? Yeah, so we'll see that jump up. And then now comparing the 2 pages, I see the total budget for 2026 is 90,147,000. And the 2026 budget for expenses for this general account is 90,437,000. So we would be like
Those are
290.
adjusted, we're using adjusted budget figures in the report.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. That's all I have for these pages.
Council President,
Councilmember McLaren?
can you talk about the huge change in the fixed assets?
Fixed assets.
Back on page 2, sorry. Code 2.
That was police vehicle purchases is basically what drives that. It was
Okay. So will we see another big, because we just approved purchasing the construction vehicles for DPW? Will we see a similar?
that would go through our capital projects.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Council President,
Councilmember Di Lorenzo?
on June 18th, we approved a transfer for the Little Italy project. It was $400,000. It was from appropriated fund balance to equipment and other capital outlay Little Italy. Would that also be a capital project, or is that going to be something that's reflected on page 2 here? And because it was in,
So what was that from appropriated fund balance?
yes.
So that when the transfer actually takes place, we've probably created the budget. When the funds move, that will trigger that'll actually populate the transfer to other funds.
Okay. So that
So you won't,
transfer,
that you won't see it. It's nothing called appropriated fund balance. It'll be a transfer, the interfund transfer line, your code 9 on the expenditure list.
okay. All right. So that has not happened yet.
I'm not aware of. I don't believe they have. No.
And that in case, because I feel like this is part of your question, that is in a capital account. The Little Italy project gets tracked through a capital
Yeah.
project account.
And now that while we're on it, I was just thinking, I believe part of that discussion we had back in June was that there was some grant money from the state that was funding most of that. Did that cover the entire cost of the project, or?
That budget transfer that we're talking about right now that you're referring to, plus additional state funding and the federal funding all cover that project completely.
Okay. So the $400,000 that we have not transferred yet, that was kind of like a cushion, if I remember correctly. Is that full amount going to be transferred, even if the full cost of the project isn't required?
No, it will not. And sometimes when you see, where different budget transfers that come before the council say whatever we can make up, there's $50,000 left there or something. You might see that we take those dollar amounts out of those capital accounts and put them again into another capital project as a transfer. Capital accounts, unlike our operating budget, carry over. Unlike our operating budget, that's just for that fiscal year. Capital accounts will continue year after year over and over. So that the money doesn't get lost or go anywhere necessarily. And yeah, we only in those capital accounts pay for ultimately what the projects cost, and then what that closeout amount will be. And the money either sits there or ends up, getting transferred into another project.
Okay, I think I'm following. Thank you.
Mhm.
Council President,
Councilmember Stuber.
I see the insurance line item is fully paid per the budget. Are we actually fully paid for insurance? Like we have no more payments and we just estimated $62 less than what we needed? Or are there more payments pending?
I'd assume, I mean, most of the insurance is paid obviously up front, but I can't honestly say I've researched such, so I can't give you an honest answer whether we have additional billing coming through or not. But normally insurance, as you know, we're assuming we're paid to the end of the year.
Okay. Great job budgeting. $62 is not a great difference than what we expected.
Any other questions from council members?
Sure, just one last one.
Sure, Councilmember Di Lorenzo.
Thank you. I'm looking at, while we're on it, code 8 under benefits, I'm seeing workers' comp, that the percent change is 100% increase over last year. Just wondering if we could get an overview of why that's happening.
It's all driven by claims,
Yeah.
so we don't have much control over.
So more claims
I mean,
than last
obviously, we
year.
try to limit injuries on the job,
Okay.
but yeah, it's similar to the health insurance. I mean, it's all claim driven.
Okay. Thank you.
And just to follow along with that topic too, not a bad time to give an update. I know that we've discussed this with the council, but we do have that risk management consultant that is on workers' comp claims is also something that consultant is part of their scope that they've been working with our personnel as well as going out to our facilities, working with our crews for the basic safety needs that you would think of, making sure hard hats are on, but also the way that we track our workers' comp claims, how we go about it. They've been very helpful with that as well. And they're still in the middle of going through that process, working directly with our personnel department on that as well.
Okay, we're all good on page 2. Let's move on to page 3.
Sure.
Councilmember Campbell Cohen.
On outside community sales, I'm seeing an 85% jump from last year. Did the thirstiest man in America move to Half Moon?
Yeah, no, that's, that's a timing issue. So we actually had a billing go out in July of last year that went out in the end of June this year, literally a couple of day difference. So just where it landed.
Okay. And so that's going to just smooth out over.
It is. It's about 1.3 million was billed in June this year. That if you're doing it in relation, if you're looking year over year. So
and when would it typically have gone out?
I believe June is actually, I don't know. I'd have to look at the billing setup. I don't have a real handle on, but it's obviously the end of June or the beginning of July is when we typically try to get it out for the municipalities.
Okay, thank you.
Council President.
Depending on the municipality.
Similar question. I can see 3.3 mil has been billed. Do we have a total of what's actually been collected?
That I don't. Or that you're talking for the city water sales, yeah, that's because there's so many billings depending on your setup here. The various districts are billed at different times. It's a myriad. I don't know how many bills. What's the, roughly, yeah.
Council President.
So there's 5 sequences done quarterly. So it's a lot of billing obviously going on at different times. It's a and I'm not well versed with it's an old system that's in our old standard, the KVS standard, which is a very unuser friendly system I've come to discover.
And I imagine it helps the staff too, though, having different billing cycles and then the amount of checks that the staff is processing. I get it.
Yeah.
And I guess this is overall, as we head into budget season, I'm curious how much we actually receive versus what's billed, to see if there is a deficit for all of these funds, for that will help us moving forward. Just, so if we bill a total of 5.5 million, what are we really expecting?
Are you in relation to the water billing?
I guess all of them, but we can break it down
But-
by department because I'm
But I mean, we do re-levy. So I mean, in the end, I mean, it might get strung out. And so it's more of a cash flow issue is what you're looking for, I guess. So,
yeah.
but as a budgeting, we're still going to bill it. So we're hoping to collect it all, but we do hold till obviously the end game here being you guys foreclose on your properties, which is a
And-
unique setup.
Is there a percentage of how many bills that we do levy each year?
I don't have that information.
At the end of the year, we come to you before the 31st with the whole list. So you'll get that whole list that gets re-levied. And then in 26, obviously they're billed. So
27, okay. Thank you.
Councilmember McLaren?
The permits, down quite a bit from this time last year. Actually, the number isn't that big, but, it's considerably less than what we projected.
It's got to be a timing issue. Let me see what's.
Okay.
Yeah, because I don't have any detail other than the number you're looking at.
Okay.
Can you tell me how long we hold residents' checks before they're actually deposited? I received a call this week from someone who check, it's been over a month, hasn't been cashed.
We try to process them as soon as they're supposed to process them the next day. So, I mean, obviously there's a backlog with the postage for one. If it's, and obviously there might be a few day lag if they get slammed all at once.
if I could jump in, the postage snail mail, it has been very rough, as you know. The postmaster sent out a huge notice at the end of last year. You actually contacted us, Council President, and we didn't even receive a couple of the people's that you mentioned, a couple of those checks until weeks later. I sent a check up to Skroon Lake. It took them 3 weeks. They called me. I sent another check. My second check actually got to them quicker than the first check. The whole postal system has changed and we have noticed a major lag with the postal system, but you know, I can let Gabrielle vouch, the checks are put in as quickly as possible. Correct. Yes.
And are residents being penalized, like our interest or fees accruing? If it's, you can see it's definitely
As long
posted.
as it's postmarked correctly, it's or within the time frame it need to be. Yeah, then we honor that.
Why a lot of folks come personally to pay their bills, like me.
Yeah.
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 Okay, all done with page 3, moving on to page 4. Councilmember Campbell Cohen.
Um, Can, looking at the insurance line, can you explain that dramatic shift relative to this time last year?
Yeah, there will be some adjustments as far as allocating insurance out. It's an accounting entry that's done typically at the end of the year, probably a prepaid that needs to be unwound. But that you'll see that level off to, I mean, insurance didn't go up dramatically, so they should fall in line by the end, by fourth quarter, you should see everything line up
Okay.
that we're aware of. Yeah.
There wasn't some incident or something that. led to
No, we
it.
would hopefully, it looks too good to be true there right now, but
Uh-huh.
it's just an accounting entry that needs to be posted.
Okay, and the other sort of noteworthy one to me in this area is the taxes, city and other governments, 413. Can you walk us through what's going on there?
So that's because it's in relation to the second quarter report from last year is skewed to a degree depending on who was prior to my taking the job here. So we had a few hands in the ledger. So it's just an interfund transfer that was booked either early in 25 or because I believe it's basically a journal entry issue. It's again another accounting move that was done last year versus this year without me auditing all of 25 again. You know, it's a
No, I follow. You're totally fine. Okay, if it is going to smooth out, then that.
yeah,
is my
that's
question.
yeah, those lines should net out to budgeted to a large degree if need be. Again,
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
Anyone have anything else on this page? Okay. Let's move on to page 5.
Council President.
Councilmember Favreau.
Very similar question. For the sewer rents, I just didn't know if you had an actual.
no, they're tied directly to the water billing. So, and that's why you should see a similar change in the rent income posted on this report. I believe they should be in line anyway, without me looking at them. This is part of one billing gig. So
Council President.
Councilmember Di Lorenzo.
Just to satisfy my own curiosity here, what might constitute a miscellaneous sewer revenue?
oh, I made a late post to that.
That should be any type of what's considered shop work.
Okay.
Okay, same with the water department. So you need to, you're building a new building or something and you need to hook up to the sewer system, something like that.
Thank you.
Council President,
Councilmember McLaren.
similar question of use of money and property. There was nothing last year. I mean, it's a small number, but still.
Yeah, it's just where we're going to recognize the interest income depending on the makeup of the fund that the funds are sitting in. Some of them are multi-fund accounts.
Okay.
We're trying to segregate them out better, but
Okay.
it's mostly recognized in the general fund.
Any others? Okay. Page 6. Are there any Questions on page 6?
Council President,
Councilmember Struber?
can you go over why the utilities line is so low?
Yeah, I'd have to drill into the ledger to see it. I mean, it's not that far, a couple $100 versus last year difference, I don't know. I'd have to drill into the ledger to see what's driving those expenditure posts.
Okay, thank you.
Like a very minimal budget.
Chair?
Yes.
Thank you. I just really wanted to once again express just the work by our department heads. As you can see, we're doing everything humanly possible to control expenditures at the same time, increase services. They've really done a remarkable job watching the dollars and cents.
Ready to move on to page 7?
Yep.
So. Council President,
Councilmember Favreau?
same question. Do we have an actual of what's been collected versus invoiced?
Unfortunately, I don't have that. We're hoping with the new system, I'll be able to pick up numbers like that, with a simple,
Click.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's just a cumbersome. Now with, yeah,
Do we have a
that's something, yeah, that one I won't assume, because that's a one, I think it's a.
It's 2 times, so 2 installments, and the second installment is until the end of September. So that when
So third
reflect
quarter should be able to
yeah.
give you a good.
a
read.
better, at least better read. And, to dovetail what Mike just said, yes, Tyler, it's it's a huge undertaking. It's worth it. It is taking time, but at the end of the day, it's just going to be much more efficient and so much easier with these reports. KVS is literally a 1980s program, and it's very difficult. But saying that, we will get there with the new accounting system, which will be great.
Do we have a timeline of when that will be? Because I think some ARPA funds are being used for that, no?
Correct. We're hoping to go live with a piece in early 27. We're currently we're working on the chart of accounts. I'm back to have a 4-hour meeting tomorrow with Tyler to try to iron out some of the chart of account issues. But once we get that base in, then we can start really rolling.
And looking at page 7, the budget for the garbage fund, if you look at the budget versus the revenue versus expenses, it's spot on. But it included in that is a $1.1 million interfund transfer. So for the folks who are listening, essentially the garbage fund does not pay for itself. Like, we have to transfer money in from other funds to cover the department, essentially.
There's funds being transferred amongst them all, but yes.
Right. I think this is the department that has one of the highest, and the only reason why I'm bringing this up is I'm a homeowner. I don't enjoy paying extra fees, but it concerns me cutting some of the fees, like the garbage fee. If we continue to cut that fee from the residents, how are we going to cover the expenses for the department?
Yeah, so, and to your point there, I mean, and keep in mind, I think since we're giving public knowledge here, I mean, the fact that all of these are separate funds, just like some of us might do in our own households, we sock some money away for our mortgage or our car payment or what we're going to go have fun with, spend in downtown Troy, stuff like that. And, that's really what this is. It's the way to look at the whole budget. And another part of it, to be clear, with those interfund transfers, the interfund transfers into the garbage fund have always occurred. It is a larger one this past year. You're correct there. But again, that's kind of that budgeting strategy that you go for, that when you're looking at the whole entire picture, not just those individual funds. Part of the way that we cut the fee is not just by making increase in an interfund transfer. It's also making sure that you're cutting your expenses, watching those expenses as well. It's also making sure that you're holding people accountable that are violating. Those are all things that add up. Good budgeting, things like that. So it's not, just to be clear, we're not necessarily just saying, okay, we're going to charge you a little bit more taxes, but then lower your fee there as well. But we always have to be mindful and make sure that we're not cutting fees. Just like I'm sure, including everybody up there, everybody would like to see a tax decrease somewhere. Fortunately, in a city like ours, we were never going to have that luxury. So it's constantly a balance by not continuing to burden the taxpayers of the city that have been burdened for a long time, while also still providing them the best service. And those are by utilizing different strategic budgeting policies. That's how we do end up getting there. But I do just want to be clear that it's not like we're taking money, increasing taxes to supplement the fund. It's also like where we do the other interfund transfers and interfund revenues across the whole budgets in between all the various funds. Every one of them has that. Again, it's just those budgeting practices that help you get to that whole number, that ultimately what matters is that bill that lands in every resident of Troy taxpayers' mailbox of what the money they owe Troy. They don't really differentiate between the different funds and stuff. And it's making sure what is the best balance for the resident taxpayer of Troy.
No, I understand. And I see like the water fund transfers out like 1.3 million because they essentially earn enough and then can be transferred out to help cover probably the garbage fund. It's all commingling, but it just raised a question to me. Is there's like constantly water main breaks and system upgrades that need to be happening in our water department. And I just think to myself, how are we going to continue to fund those projects, but then also funnel the money out? And I know I'm getting ahead of myself. This is like budgeting season question.
We're here.
Like halfway through the year is a good time to look to see, okay, where are we heading into the budget season of what could be increased and what can be cut?
Again, back to the balance of that you have to do. You have to make sure clearly that we've made a effort to make sure that we're stabilizing, fixing our assets, improving those assets, like the water plant that has been left to rot for decades, frankly. So, those are things that we're constantly going after state funding for, that we're mindful for. We're trying to get as creative in every single funding source that we possibly can, utilizing our CHIPS funding to try to do things more than just paving like used to been done before, and not just milling, also doing the ADA ramps, also doing retaining walls, also replacing water mains that constantly, 10 times a year burst. We have to start looking at things that way. We have to start looking at those assets and planning for it. I mean, everybody hates you're paving a street, or if you live on a street that is just so prone to water main breaks. That's why we want to go and fix those. But I just want to be clear again, those interfund transfers are not necessarily, doesn't mean, okay, we're fixing less water main breaks now, or we have less money to do that as well. Other cities have the benefit of other funds that do perform well. We do have that water fund that is profitable. It doesn't mean you just take every dollar out of there either, of course. But, again, going back to those budgeting practices to make sure that the residents and taxpayers get the best value for their dollar.
And if I could just add two things. One, on the garbage fund, we are working very hard through Seamus, through Joe, through our departments to incentivize a lot of folks that we lost when that fee went into place to the private sector. We are now in competition with the private sector. We are picking up folks because our services have better quality. They're more efficient. And we really have second to none departments that we continue to provide that service better. Secondly, as Seamus just mentioned, you have to look at government much differently now than we looked back at the 80s, the 90s, the early 2000s. You can't just, put a circle in a circle, a square in a square. You have to really look at things much differently. How do we provide those services differently? And that's very rude for people to be laughing while we're really talking about something very serious. Saying that, the budget, we are very, Council President, please. Thank you, please. So saying that, we have to look at government differently. We have to look at providing services differently. And that's what we strive to do 24/7. We're doing it with the police department, the fire, our garbage service, sanitation, streets, quality of life action task force. The list goes on, but we have to continue every day to think differently when providing those services. You're seeing it in Albany, you're seeing it in other munis. You cannot just look at numbers and service. We have to look at things differently.
Do we have any more questions?
For page 8, I do.
We're moving to page 8.
Okay.
Council President.
Councilmember McLaren.
I see that the tipping fee is, pretty much in line with where we were this time last year. What, the bulk pickup that we just finished, is that going to affect the tipping fee differently than we've seen in past years?
It's a great question. The answer is no. If you recall, last year, we provided free Alamo. This year, instead of providing multiple free Alamos, we tried as something new, the bulk pickup. It was so incredibly successful. We are going to debrief in the fall. We want to tweak it for next year, just how we provide that service, maybe go 3 weeks instead of 2 weeks. Saying that, I cannot say enough about our Deputy Mayor, Joe Maz, the crews. When I say that they were working 24/7 on the bulk pickup, it was one of the best services, I believe, that we've provided to taxpayers in decades. So just kudos to the crews. They really, really did an amazing job.
So you think that will even out? You think that the
Yes.
bulk pickup compares to what people would bring?
It'll
to
be in
the
line.
Alamo on there?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Sorry to interrupt. And
No,
yes, so last year we just provided more Alamo drop-offs. And
Okay.
what we did find from the bulk pickup, council member, is a lot of seniors, a lot of folks who
couldn't get-
just wouldn't have made it to the Alamo. I even had one guy tell me he's been wanting to redo his basement for like decades. He now literally, bulk picked up the basement, he's redoing the basement. So I think what we're going to also see, our homes actually, their property values increase because of that. We saw people cleaning up their property. It was a real domino effect of really taking pride in our neighborhoods.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
So just for clarification,
Councilmember Favreau.
sorry.
Sure.
For clarification, what I'm hearing is this was very successful, but we won't be offering additional Alamo pickups if residents reach out for that.
I'm gonna take a look at it and see how much the bulk pickup was. We'd love to provide one more. We'll have to weigh that out, obviously, with the cost.
Okay.
Councilmember Campbell Cohen.
To jump back to the first page, second page, something that I heard you to ask. For overtime, there was a pretty substantial jump from this time last year. I assume a substantial amount of that was the winter storms, right?
The snow plowing you were talking about, correct? It was one of those years where the 2-3 inches were worse than prior years. We'll take a 15 incher over 10 2 inchers. But saying that, and I'll let Shane plop in on the overtime on snow plowing if I missed anything.
I'll plop right in there. So,
Wow.
yeah, but yeah, no, I mean, that's just all, just like some of these, obligations, these overtime obligations, but, that is something that as we get towards, snow season again too, you will be seeing us coming for a budget transfer before we get to that season, because we'll have to account for towards the end of the year and what may be coming.
And are we expecting some of the overtime from, say, like the MEO heavies to drop off a little bit with the new towing rules?
Not, yeah, I don't believe so. No, like
No, that's probably going to stay in line.
that should stay in line because we are still trying to, clean our streets the best as we possibly can with those towing restrictions. Obviously they cause some issues without, the way that the towing has changed, but that doesn't really change our effort to continue to keep the streets as clean as possible. And our staff's effort, of course.
And do we have a loose sense of how much overtime is spent on the street cleaning and towing?
Well, so I mean, the street clean, because so when you're in regard to street cleaning, where it starts in our 4 a.m. areas and those, the separation of that, we can look into that for you. That's what, but the correlation between the 4 a.m. shift and the towing or not towing, I don't really see how that would make a difference. Because like I said, they're still out there still trying to clean the streets as best they can, even if cars can't be towed just yet.
And for an MEO heavy, do you have an idea of like what the salary band is?
Off the top of my head, I wouldn't, especially it varies between the different years and things like that, but that's information we can provide you too.
Would it surprise you if I told you that the take home pay with overtime was well into the 6 figures for MEO heavies?
I do know that some of our union staff definitely, with the overtime and the way that seniority contractually works, can make 6 figures. They're usually folks that have been on work for the city for 20 years. They're at a higher tier. They're at a higher level when it comes to seniority. Frankly, they're also more willing to go grab the overtime compared to some folks that are younger than them that would rather the time off versus than going after the overtime. So that's why sometimes you can see that get concentrated because of those factors.
So as a city, we can't control, I mean, we can influence, but we can't control who's gonna grab that overtime, but we can control how much is needed and how much is.
That's correct too. Like I always remember first coming into office, for some reason, there was overtime in streets and sanitation on the weekends, cleaning CDA bus stops. Why? We don't own them. CDTA should clean them. There was a lot of different weird, I don't know if they were verbal agreements, arrangements is probably better for years. So those we've definitely cut out. But again, like the mayor was going over here too, we try to control the expenditures as much as we can. Some of the stuff that we're not going to sacrifice, like cleaning our streets, making sure that police and fire can respond to calls, snowstorms, those are things that we don't consider sacrificing, even though we're contractually obligated to, pay the certain rate that you're leaning into.
Great, thank you.
Councilmember
Council
DiLorenzo.
President, thank you. Just jumping back to the garbage fund expenses, my apologies. The tipping, is this not on? Can you hear? Okay.
You're not close enough.
Sorry, I was leaning back. Okay, the tipping fee. So yeah, up until this point, it looks like we're, on track here. If I'm understanding what we're saying correctly about the tipping fees, the bulk pickup was budgeted for. And so we should not be expecting an interfund transfer this year to cover those tipping fees. Am I correct in saying that?
I have to say we're performing well right now.
Okay. I guess we can.
Just looking at the overall budget, I'm not tuned into to that depth, so
Maybe next quarter is a better time to ask. Okay.
sure.
All right, thank you.
Okay, I think that just about wraps it up for everyone. Thank you all for your help. Looking forward to the next quarter for the charter. Hoping it's on time. And do we need to take a 5-minute break? No,
No.
we can go right in. Okay. At this point, is there anyone who wishes to address the council on any one of those 4 ordinances? Again, I'll ask, is there anyone who wishes to speak on any agenda item for the special meeting? Seeing none, we'll move right along. Ordinance 34.
Ordinance 34, an ordinance authorizing settlement of claim to wit Ajit K. Kanuja et al. Versus City of Troy et al., United States District Court for the Northern District of New York, civil action number 126-CV-1019. Council President Steele at the request of the administration.
Is there a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember McLaren, second. Councilmember McKee. Discussion on the ordinance.
Council President.
Councilmember McLaren.
I just wanted to say that I appreciate that this was done, I guess in terms of other lawsuits, this settlement was, agreed upon pretty quickly. And I'm glad for the family that it is, resolved.
Any other comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
7 ayes, 0 noes. The ordinance passes.
Ordinance 36.
Ordinance 36, an ordinance amending the 2026 general fund budget. Council President Steele at the request of the administration.
Is there a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember McLaren, second.
Second.
Councilmember Struber. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 noes. The ordinance passes.
Ordinance 41.
Ordinance 41, an ordinance authorizing settlement of claim to wit Joseph Martinez versus the City of Troy and Towers on the Hudson, Rensselaer County Supreme Court Index Number EF 2023-273522. Council President Steele at the request of the administration.
Is there a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember McKee with a second by Councilmember McLaren. Discussion on the ordinance. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
7 ayes, 0 noes. The ordinance passes.
Ordinance 43.
Ordinance 43, an ordinance amending the general fund, capital projects fund, and miscellaneous special grants fund budgets to appropriate funding from the American Rescue Plan Act. Council President Steele at the request of the administration.
Is there a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember Favreau, second.
Second.
Councilmember Struber. Discussion,
Council President.
Councilmember Favreau.
I'd just like to say, as a member of the ARPA Steering Committee, that a number of projects were discussed during this meeting. I know at least 7 or 8 residents throughout the city had reached out to me to bring some smaller projects forward. And I did bring every single one of those projects forward. And I understand that it would have been difficult for the city to complete all of the necessary steps to get those projects and these monies spent by the end of the year. That's our deadline. And we have a responsibility, I think, to spend every single penny so that it's not clawed back. And that is why the committee had decided to fund these 2 projects. And I am thrilled that North Lake, even though it's not in my district, will be focused on, because I understand that is heavily used. And I'm looking forward to the continued conversation with the administration next month in general services so that we can further discuss the pavilion that a portion of these funds will be going toward.
Council President. Councilmember McLaren.
And I would just like to say that as a lifelong resident of the Fair Park neighborhood, I am grateful to the committee that these projects are going to be seen through.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
7 ayes, 0 noes. The ordinance passes.
At this point, I'll waive the rules a bit, and if anyone wishes to address the council on any item, we'd be happy to hear from you. Seeing none, I'll, no. Oh.
They were sleeping.
What have I opened up?
It reminds me of the corporate meetings where we all sit at the end of the meeting and does anyone have anything to add? And everybody sits there till people get up and then we talk. My name's Jim Mountier, District 5. I think tonight you're going to hear from many of my friends and neighbors who have broken down the data on the TPD audit. I trust them and admire their thoroughness. I'll say that in advance. What I see are numbers, lots of numbers, large numbers of searches and data being collected. Including in those numbers is the astonishing amount of data Axon has collected. Our conversation cannot be limited to Flock. The number of entities outside of Troy looking at our data also is a concern. We are clearly under surveillance. What I don't see in all these numbers is that Flock devices add significantly to our safety. What I keep coming back to are these frightening numbers reflecting how we are being watched. While it's significant that most police response to notices happens within 48 hours, I don't find this metric inspires any sort of confidence. And from what I heard tonight, I'm not gathering any more confidence in what Flock is doing to keep us safe. My stand on this is simply get the Flock out of Troy. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Sorry, my phone locked. Okay. Francis Sweet, District 6. When I heard that TPD was going to collect data on itself to prove whether or not they needed more than 48 hours of plate retention, I was skeptical. I thought the data would be skewed and unreliable. Instead, it turns out most of the important information is just missing. And what is there proves that there is no need to keep data beyond 48 hours. The claim was that data was needed to be kept longer for cases that weren't reported until 48 hours after the incident, but 96% were reported within 48 hours. TBD searched for plates within 48 hours of the incident only 64% of the time. The lag seems to be on the department side, not the public's. However, no case outcomes were provided that prove ALPR data helps solve cases. Of the 30 they provided information about, there's no numbers provided on how many of those cases were solved, and in that number, how many used plate data as crucial evidence. In Atlanta, in Atlanta, they have 5,000 flock cameras blanketing the area, yet they only solve 10% of the motor vehicle crime there, something you'd think ALPRs would help the most with. In Troy, if you look at the FBI's crime statistics, the number of solved cases for motor vehicle theft has remained consistently low for the past 5 years since we got flock cameras, regardless of how many vehicles were reported stolen. At its highest in 2024, 21 vehicles, and they only solved 2 cases. At its lowest of 3 in January 2026, they solved 1 case. In fact, they solved the most cases in February 2020 before we got flock cameras. None of the information provided by TPD and none of the information I've researched has convinced me we even need ALPRs at all, let alone shady companies like Flock or Axon. Unless TPD can prove that it needs 5 million plate reads a month to solve their cases, I don't think that they should have this mass surveillance technology. They already have however many Eclipse cameras watching us in real time. By the way, that company has now upgraded its model to match Flock, including AI and cloud networks on software hosted by Amazon. When Amazon services were hacked a couple years ago and half the internet went down, would that now include Eclipse surveillance cameras? Also, despite the recent fanfare, Flock didn't change its data retention to 7 days instead of 30. It says on their website they changed their default setting to 7 days and recommend using that, meaning 30 is still possible with a few extra clicks. The movement is called Deflock because Flock is the most egregious, but that doesn't mean the other companies are squeaky clean. All APRs are tracking us wherever we've gone. Any ALPR tech that uses AI will go above and beyond to predict where we'll go next. I am convinced that ALPRs amount to warrantless searches, especially after the recent Supreme Court decision, Christie versus United States, and I think that they should all be banned. Until that happens, in the meantime, I would rather have a local law tightly regulating their use compared to the nothing we currently have. TPD changed their stated policy in spring after public pressure in the same way that Flock claims to have this month. They are only superficial changes without a law. Thank you.
Thank you, Francis.
I'm Evelyn Saley, District 3. I wanted to impress upon the council the importance of local law number 3. This law is a vital protection for the members of this community. It defines critical reporting requirements and prevents the use of the technology as comprehensive surveillance infrastructure. In her memo in support of law number 3, Councilwoman McKee cites a 2018 Supreme Court case, Carpenter v. United States. In the court opinion, Justice Roberts states concisely enough, a person does not surrender all Fourth Amendment protection by venturing into the public sphere. I have to agree. Later on, he comments, police need not even know in advance whether they want to follow a particular individual or when. Whoever the suspect turns out to be, he has effectively been tailed every moment of every day for 5 years. Justice Roberts was discussing the use of cell phone tracking data. He believed that the police should at least need a warrant before getting access to that information. Again, I have to agree. The difference now is that the police don't even have to bother sending an email to a service provider to retrieve the info. Without this law, there is a question as to whether any officer would need to confer with their superior before querying the data. There's a question as to how the data will be guarded and who will have access. There is a question as to who the government could convey the information to and for what purpose. Mayor Mantello calls the technology proven. In fact, the technology is proven to result in the arrest of innocent people. A study by the IPVM research demonstrated an about 1 in 10 failure rate, whereas in Lee Schmidt versus City of Norfolk, among the undisputed facts is that flock cameras have a 7% failure rate. If you're like me and you drive past 3 camera installations just commuting to work, then it's safe to say your plate is misidentified at least a couple times a week. This is not a hypothetical issue. When Brandon Upchurch's plate was misread by a flock camera, he suffered an attack by a canine unit and guns drawn on him, resulting in a $35,000 settlement. In Tennessee, JC and Carolyn Heron faced guns drawn with their 3-year-old granddaughter in the back seat for the same non-reason. 6 months ago, in February, another couple faced guns drawn due to flock camera's mistake, this time with a 1-month-old in the back seat. Mayor Mantello also calls this law reckless, as if the police are being handicapped. This law places small guardrails on a very new technology, and the police are nonetheless the beneficiaries of ever-expanding discretion. This law represents vital guardrails in protecting this community's Fourth Amendment rights and their relationship with law enforcement. Clearly, the reckless thing would be to allow this technology to proliferate unrestricted. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Evan.
Hi, Deirdre. Deirdre Shea, District 4. I'll try to be quick. Thank you for the work you have done so far, bringing forward local law number 3, and working with us on our concerns about flock and automated surveillance such as ALPRs. And I kind of have 2 things to say here. The first thing is that Wired Magazine just published an article this week documenting Flock's latest pilot program, which is called OS Investigate. And they found that with this new software, law enforcement can now write a prompt that includes a place, a stretch of time, and a pattern of behavior. And then the system is designed to hand back a list of people who fit, or cars that fit that description, license plates. So let's say cars on Huzik that stop at Stewart's between 4 and 5 p.m. on Wednesday and Thursday afternoons. It will sift through the 4.8 million plates that it scanned for the month. And then it will basically come back with a list for the officer of the potential cars that fit that pattern of behavior. This is not safety. This is using an automated system to profile us based on how we live our lives, right? That's a pattern of life. And this technology, I use that example because this technology is, over the past several months, has already continued to evolve very quickly, beyond our expertise and faster than we expect. And the only way to be ahead of that is to go deliberately and to go slowly. We have to require public input before any of these technologies are implemented, and public review after they are. Regular public review. And this should be included in the proposed law. The second thing I wanted to share is an experience I have had with Flock this summer. On June 9th, the Rensselaer County Sheriff's Office hosted a live demonstration of Flock's new Drones First Responder, with Flock representatives present, and they invited 1 or 2 of the community members opposed to Flock to attend. So I saw a lot that troubled me in this demonstration, but there is one particular feature that I can't stop thinking about. As they broadcast a live feed of the drone flying down 4th Street, south of the Post and Kill, which is my neighborhood, Greg's neighborhood, one of the Flock representatives proudly announced that if desired, you could click on any vehicle live from the mobile app that first responders would use on their own personal phones to manually fly the drone or to observe the automatic drone. And then the drone would automatically begin to follow that car. So he clicked on a white, early 2000s Ford truck with a black bed rack, and I could observe and see all of those details about this truck. I recognized the truck. It drives around the neighborhood a lot. Just from the live feed, as it was making a right onto Madison towards the neighborhood woods. And I told him that I thought automatically following a car live by clicking on it in a phone app seemed like a Fourth Amendment violation and asked if they had any restrictions built into their user interface for that. And he said, no, but they could potentially maybe do some one-off customization if a municipality had a law about it and requested it. But it was up to the municipality to take responsibility for what is legal and not legal to do with their technology. And they are right. So in our role, it is our role here in Troy to limit this type of technology by passing a law. And local law number 3 is that law. Despite the fact that this technology was implemented without our consent or our knowledge, as the public, we are taking action now and saying no flock, no ALPRs, or restricted ALPRs. And this law is a very meaningful first step towards that. So thank you for that. There are concerns that this law doesn't go far enough, and I agree. Looking at the flock data, 4.8 million scans a month, and reading TPD's description of what is documented and what isn't, there's clearly no regular procedure for collecting auditable information. And we can't hold the police department or these private companies accountable, even if we do have a PORB, if we can't perform audits that illustrate patterns of use. And I caution that even if we resolve the issue of ALPRs as surveillance, there will be more technologies that will emerge in the name of safety and crime solving that are in actuality here to assert power over our communities, whether it's for data collection and sale or for control. And I implore the City Council to respond to these unknowns by implementing requirements for public forum before any of these types of technologies are implemented by the police or any other body in this community. Thank you.
Thank you, Deirdre.
Hello, Greg Lyons. I live there on 2nd Street in downtown Troy. I emailed some of you what I was be talking about today. So I wanted to start off with thank you for the audit, right? However incomplete it is, that's much better than the first audit that we received. And without all you here today, we wouldn't have got that, right? None of that would be visible. And so one of the things I want us to keep in mind while drafting local law 3 is how we got here, because how we got here matters. History matters. That's how we learn to improve and go forward. In 2021, the first flock agreement was signed on December 19th by the Troy Police Department. In 2022, it was expanded by the police department. And there's no one can answer the question when it was brought to council, if it was brought to council, and when did the people approve it? Nobody answers that question. The buck is passed, left, right, center. When citizens brought up their concerns in 2025, well, beginning of this year, what happened? I mean, to Troy PD's credit, they turned off the national search, but then in the same breath, the administration declared a public emergency to override the council's decision to table it because just wanted questions answered by the public here. So again, here, no dialogue has been happening since these concerns have been brought up, right? They got 60 days, and then bless all your hearts, you gave them another 60 days. And then they gave us that audit, right? The first audit, which was, wholly incomplete and unacceptable. Yeah, so this is the history that we're working from here. So I highly encourage local law 3 must include binding legislation that governs the use of these technologies, such as Flock or any others, right? By government entities like the Troy PD and by third-party vendors like Flock. Like, we need that in law. We must be a nation of laws. Without that, I don't know what we've been doing. It's not going to protect us otherwise. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg.
I'm Heather. I live in District 2. And I
I want to start by saying that first, I think we shouldn't have the APLRs at all. I think they're an egregious violation of it.
I'm sorry. Could you speak into the mic?
Yes, I'm too
Thank you.
short. My apologies.
I am too, so I understand.
It's lower now. So I just want to start off by saying that first, I am completely opposed to the use of any passive gathering of mass surveillance data like this. But given that it's here, I do want to say that I appreciate the efforts to put guardrails around the use of these license plate readers, and I support local law 3 conceptually. I just wanted to speak on one particular issue that I noticed. So my concern with the way the law is drafted now is that there's permission for searches against hot lists. And I know earlier in the meeting, there was some discussion of how New Hampshire does it and they only use hot lists, and isn't that better? I'm very concerned about hot lists and what they mean, right? Because they can be created, and the way the law defines them, they can be created by any local, state, or federal law enforcement agency, right? And so by outsourcing the what can we check against to law enforcement, all of this is law enforcement, right? We're relying on them to create these lists in good faith. I think this is really dangerous. Unfortunately, we just don't live in a world where I have any confidence at all that any existing list maintained by any law enforcement agency anywhere is not actively and intentionally racist, first. I also don't think it's far-fetched to imagine the federal government, for example, creating and sharing hot lists that are composed entirely of transgender people, or people who said something spicy about them on the internet, or people who practice a certain religion, or immigrants, right? So you get the idea of where I'm going with, like, what is on the hot list. Like, you just make a new hot list and then we pull all those people over, and who knows what happens there. I see hot lists as just a way to automate bias, and I think it's very dangerous, and it's an exception that's going to swallow the rule. Sort of as an aside, but related to this, I think keeping and maintaining any mass surveillance data that can be even possibly accessed by any federal law enforcement agency at the moment is incredibly dangerous, right? In the capital region lately, and especially in the month of August, we've seen a massive escalation of ICE tactics, right? Both in terms of like the number of detentions and the strategies they're using. This isn't Albany only. This is also in Troy, including today, including reckless driving, including staging on public property, including the Ingalls Ave boat launch. And I think any data we're collecting that could contribute to that is diminishing all of our safety. So we should get rid of the cameras. We should not share data with fascists, and we should do better. But if we can't do that, we should have a good local law, and it shouldn't include the hot list. So thank you.
Thank you, Heather.
Hey, everybody. Bree Harrington, District 4. Yeah, so thank you again for continuing your thoroughness with trying to deconstruct all of the challenges the city has been facing with the Flock dilemma. I think we can all agree after the audit results have come in, it has further emboldened our feelings that Flock in general is not necessary in our city. There has been no concrete proof, as you have went over with the PD, that Flock has directly helped and, solve a crime. Yes, it is tool in certain respects for certain crimes, but the audit was so poorly done and really did not prove that Flock was a really important, priority as far as crime solving is concerned. I think more of the alarming data that came through was the amount of hits, as has been already touched upon. Millions and millions of hits. Now, the ratio to me doesn't feel quite right as far as the amount of hits versus how much has been successfully done in crime solving. So with that being said, it just further proves that Flock is not necessary in our city. Flock should be taken out of our city. And sure, there can be alternatives put in place. We're all looking for safety, but there are other things that could be done instead of this technology, especially a technology that we've heard time and time again is owned by a very nefarious company that does things in very deceptive, nefarious ways. So thank you again, and hopefully as time goes on, we will get this state of emergency thing figured out, which we are doing, thank goodness, and we will get these cameras out of our city once and for all. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good evening, council members. My name is Frankie and I'm a resident of Troy. I honestly don't know where to start. There are so many elements of the 60-day Flock report that need to be addressed. The stunning revelation of the sheer scope of Troy's warrantless mass surveillance program, the collection of millions of data points on our individual movements, the inherent bias in a self-audit rather than a neutral third-party review, the fact that our local law enforcement agency is willingly and purposefully breaking constitutional law in an attempt to enforce other laws, the astonishing fact that we are still in a citywide public safety state of emergency when Flock data demonstrates no such emergency conditions exist, and the truly unbelievable fact that our city administration and police department have greater allegiance to a private data broker than to private citizens and our constitutional rights. I'm going to let others pick apart the report. There's plenty to dissect. I just want to focus on some of the deeper principles that underpin this whole discussion. First, the more I look at the Flock report, the more I understand the deep intrusiveness of AI-powered surveillance technology and the shocking level to which these mass surveillance systems infringe on our constitutional rights on a daily basis. In a free country, our movements are none of the government's business unless and until we're reasonably suspected of committing a crime. And even then, we're entitled to due process and a judicial warrant before we're tracked and monitored by the police. But with these cameras, the daily movements of perfectly innocent people are being tracked in Troy every single day. That's a dangerous practice that erodes our basic freedoms and eventually creates a police state in which we're presumed guilty, even though the law says we're entitled to the presumption of innocence. Due process, something we all should hold sacred, is simply out the window with these mass surveillance systems. And the sheer volume of data collected on each of us in Troy should give us all pause. Over 80 million private vehicle scans in a year, out-of-state agencies searching Troy's data millions of times, thousands of searches of Troy's data by federal agencies. This is a massive amount of data collected in the name of public safety, and there isn't even any assurance that this illegally obtained data is kept safe. We know from several recent accounts that Flock data has already been misused by hackers, government officials, and law enforcement staff. It's law enforcement's job to protect the public. So why aren't they protecting us from this misuse? And why aren't they protecting us from unconstitutional tracking of our every movement? Because they are the stalkers. They fell for a smooth sales pitch from Flock, and now they believe they're on a righteous quest to fight crime with technology, perfectly willing to sacrifice citizens' rights in the process. But here's the truth. Flock, which is a private for-profit company, identified municipal governments and local police departments as sales targets. They researched their target audience, they marketed their product in ways that they hoped would be irresistible, and they promoted their product relentlessly. They tried to make Flock a household name in law enforcement. Every other city has this, you need it too. It's marketing 101, and cities and police departments across the nation bought into it with very few questions asked, and the city of Troy bought into it too. Well, now cities large and small are having buyer's remorse. They're realizing that everything in Flock's polished sales pitch wasn't as perfect as it seemed, that this system has a lot of flaws. We've all seen the stories of reader errors, data hacking, politically motivated tracking, police misuse, and more.
They're also now waking up to the fact that private citizens don't actually appreciate infringement of their constitutional rights and don't actually enjoy being surveilled 24/7 without reasonable suspicion and due process. But when these concerns surfaced, Flock didn't address the problems. They just helped police departments and city officials defend the product, which our mayor and police chief have dutifully done. What I would like to see our local government do is remember that the United States Constitution legally protects us from warrantless dragnet surveillance and then defend our rights instead of defending a product. Flock systems are not a necessity. They're a product the city purchased with taxpayer dollars. In the simplest term, Flock is basically just a Netflix subscription for local law enforcement, and we're all uncompensated cast members in a reality show, having our movements filmed and shared with agencies and businesses across the nation without our input or consent. The mayor and the Troy Police Department can't spin this information in any other way. They can't deny that every single movement in and out of our city is being tracked and recorded 24/7 without due process. And officials around the nation are also accessing our data without clear purpose or audit trails. That's the undeniable truth of this report. I'm not comfortable with that truth, and I would expect that the average citizen who values their rights and freedoms guaranteed under the Constitution would not be comfortable with it either. The mayor and the police chief's faith in Flock, this intrusive, profit-driven data brokerage company, is clearly misplaced. The mass warrantless surveillance they sell is not legal, it's not appropriate, and it's not welcome in our community. Please join other smart cities in rejecting this and any other similar product. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Frankie. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Councilmember McLaren. Councilmember McKee seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are